Good afternoon. Welcome to the Batman Show. We have returned now that Bat Ian has returned from his other adventures somewhere else. And Erik Woods is in the house, as always. How are you, gentlemen?
Good, good. Looking forward to this.
I have some exciting news to share with the entire world. Wow. I was listening to Tim Pool the other day, and he mentioned that Joe Rogan is no longer the #1 podcast on Spotify. He said it's now the Batman Show. And I thought, what? What? I didn't even know we were on Spotify. I was just like, holy crap. Thank you, everyone. Oh, wait, what's that? It's a different Batman show? Oh, well. Thank you anyway for tuning in. And in my mind, we're #1 on Spotify because we all know I can't count to 20 anyways.
You know what? You should make this a podcast.
How does one do that?
Yeah. How do you do it?
Yeah.
You should be able to take the YouTube file and just create an audio version of it. And if you've never made a podcast before, I can help you out with that if you want to make an audio. So, yeah.
I've got a hammer and some wire, if that helps.
You got any nails?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What about some duct tape?
No.
No.
Okay. Oh, the show's called Batman Unburied.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's kind of like
okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, hey, man. Good.
But
hey, it's not the Batman Show.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
That's right.
We got David Pinsack in the house. How are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in like an hour and a half or so.
Hi, David.
So I have something happened to me between the last show and this show. I went to my front doorstep and I got
oh, nice.
Which one was this? Batman Forever. It says it's a stamped a promo copy, not for sale. But
Warner Brothers did that a lot.
I think I paid for it. So, anyways, I was glad to get it.
I have a bunch of those, and it's just I hated when they stamped the front cover. Oh wow!
I ordered this like a year ago.
So what version is that?
It's a reissue that just came out. City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra.
Oh, it's the City of Prague one.
Tony Brimner? Yeah. 2 LPs.
That is one of their best recordings. It's good stuff.
I was listening to it before I got on the show. It sounds great. I could have sworn I ordered the purple vinyl and I got black vinyl, but I mean, I'm not going to send it back. Just like I said, I ordered it forever ago. And this guy finally showed up after like 6 weeks.
Wow.
So I'm real glad to get this.
That's excellent.
Yeah. That's all the mail I got today. So
you said you had issues with Amazon?
Yes. Someone had posted Cloud Atlas was coming out on LP. And I thought, well, let me see if it's on CD first. And the CD prices at that point in time when I looked were a lot more than what I wanted to pay. So I pre-ordered it on LP, and it's supposed to ship this month or next month. And Amazon sent me an email, and it said, we need you to go on your desktop and confirm you still want it. I'm like, I don't have a desktop. Can't do it on the phone or the tablet. It ain't getting done. So I went to eBay and just looked up Cloud Atlas soundtrack, and I got the CD for like $12 for shipping. So I was like, all right, Amazon, you just lost my $50. So
wow, it's $50.
$50.
$50. Yeah, LPs ain't cheap.
Wow.
2 LP set.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Huh.
I ordered a CD today, and I'm probably catching what you've got, Daniel, because it's a recommendation of Eric's. Friday, you posted about Feel Good Friday. I thought we'd get more response from that, but
I thought so too, but I don't know. Maybe we need to say something negative about Hans Zimmer in order to get the the response.
It was Friday the 13th, though.
Yeah. The head of your post was the Musketeer soundtrack,
David
Arnold, and I listened to it on Apple Music, and I've never listened to it before.
Oh, really?
It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So I ordered the CD yesterday. So
I'm gonna make another recommendation for you. It sounds like a David Arnold score, but he only wrote the theme, and I'm not sure whether you have it or not. But do you have Wing Commander?
No.
It's 30 minutes long, I think.
Okay.
David Arnold wrote the theme. It's amazing. Kevin Kiner wrote the rest of the score. Nicholas Dodd orchestrates, but it just sounds like a David Arnold space opera. It could be Independence Day too, but it has one of the most incredible finale cue you will ever hear. It's just enormous. I'm going to see if I can find the title, because the titles on this album are great too. Yeah, there's the big damn ending. It's the last track. And so it's 38 minutes long. The movie was terrible, and I think for the most part the score really got undermixed or hardly used in some places and was replaced by songs. But the score is exceptional, and of course David Arnold writes this overture, and it's brilliant. So if you like the big, ballsy, huge orchestral scores, then I highly recommend that one.
All right, I'll look out for that.
Yeah, it's very good.
Daniel, you mentioned last week the CD for the John Williams Berlin concert was a bit muffled, or yours was.
The sound to me, like the tone, is just like I'm got my ear stopped up.
Well, I had to listen to my one.
That's the same one I got.
Yeah, and it seems to be fine.
It sounds the same in the car, in the house, and the LP's got the same quality to it. It's probably just me, but it just sounds.
Are you comparing it to the Vienna concert and then this Berlin one sounds different, or?
I guess mentally I'm comparing it to all my Boston Pop CDs.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's a very different sound. I mean, much like the third Spielberg collaboration album, I'm not a huge fan of the sound quality on that one. There's just something about it's either the acoustics or Sean Murphy's recording of it. I prefer the Boston Pops first two albums. The sound of that, just again, it had that very typical Boston Pop sound. It's tough to explain, but once you hear Boston Pop's album, you know what they sound like.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh yeah, the Nicholas Rocha. Oh great. Yeah, Three Choral Suites is excellent. I love that album. It's so good. I'm glad you found it.
I've still got that in my watch list. I just haven't hit the buy button yet. I need to. But I bought too much lately. Because Eric and I were talking before the show, La La Land has their 25% off annual spring sale. So if you've been like putting things off, now's the time to put them in your cart and hit the buy button.
Yeah, the sale ends tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
Tomorrow, yeah. But I mean, you can get a lot of great deals, and there's a lot of great albums still available. Again, I was waiting for Harry Potter to show up again, but apparently they're having issues with their, I could be quoting this wrong, like their European pressing plant or something like that, and they're not getting the new ones shipped quick enough. So, but I bet you it's available on the 18th.
Probably.
So it's low.
or at least by the following week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I paid full retail for that, but I can say I didn't pay secondary prices for it.
That's good. That's good.
Because if you go on eBay, it's like $200 to $300.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's absurd. It's like the Jurassic Park one is pretty expensive too. And then there's that really rare version of it where the T-Rex doesn't have any teeth on the cover when they printed it. So they reprinted them. Yeah, the teeth were missing.
Is the sound any different, or is it just
no? It's exactly the same contents. It's just for some reason when they printed the cover, it was the teeth were missing from the skeleton of the T-Rex on the cover of the Jurassic Park album. So.
Are you making that up?
No. Seriously,
I'm gonna have to go check, see which one I got.
How can it not have teeth?
So Jurassic Park, let's see, La La Land teeth. It was actually quite funny. There it is. It's on the Film Score monthly board. And it has one tooth. I'm going to copy the image address. I'll put it in our private chat. and then I'll see if I can go onto YouTube and put it in the
got
YouTube
teeth.
chat.
I got teeth on mine.
Yeah, so it's the cover. It's inside booklet.
Oh, I got no teeth.
You have no teeth? You just have the one tooth on the bottom?
I don't see any teeth.
I'm going to have to have a look at mine now.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm rich. It's like Bitcoin on my phone.
Oh, please,
Wow.
You're the big winner.
please let me not have teeth.
And I think you could have contacted them to get the right booklet. So
this is just crap, man. I'm just gonna throw this away now.
Oh, mine's got teeth.
You got teeth. All right, I got yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, well I got teeth on the Lost World.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Oh, I'm disappointed now. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric, someone's throwing some hate your way. Michael says every time he listens to your show, he ends up buying stuff. Yeah.
Michael's a very dedicated, long-time fan of my podcast. He's been around forever. Comments on. Sorry?
We're happy to have you here, Michael.
Yeah. And so he keeps on telling me how much money I keep stealing from his wallet for every show that I put up. So it makes me happy that people are buying stuff due to my recommendations on my podcast. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? So, I want you to go out and if you hear something you like, go buy it.
Yeah.
Talking of buying stuff, Perez announced their CD club titles are going to be released this Friday. So they're doing the usual Wednesday clues, and then
I have
Friday.
a feeling one of them. Excuse me. Well, I haven't seen the clues, but I know that John Powell put something up a couple of days ago saying that another deluxe edition of one of his scores were coming out. So I wouldn't be surprised if How to Train Your Dragon 3 was one of them, but I'm not sure how that licensing would work on that. But I think he pays for all of those deluxe editions himself.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think so. Because it goes through his 5 Cat studios as well. They're always credited. And so his whole team remixes everything and helps him out with that, with those productions. But I'm wondering where I'm waiting for, I know everybody wants Leviathan.
Yes.
But I would absolutely love an expanded Quick and the Dead. Alan Silvestri's such a great throwback to Ennio Morricone with Alan Silvestri's voice. And it's a great film as well. I mean, Sam Raimi doing a Western is fantastic.
And
what are the clues?
The clues aren't out yet. The clues are out on Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be shocked if one of them wasn't How to Train Your Dragon 3.
Some of those Perez clues can be quite clever, but some can be just so obscure.
Yeah. But hey, it keeps people interested.
It does.
In Perez. I mean, this is all they have now. Their deluxe editions, and that's it. I think that's all they're good for. And I guess the record day sales as well. But yeah, I think we talked about it on the last show. Just disappeared, which is unfortunate. Yeah,
that's because I was saying the last time that it's been a while. Well, when was going to be the next CD club release, and we're having one. So
yeah,
they just did a new Dragon one. What, right before Christmas?
Yeah, they did that with the Iron Giant.
Yeah,
but I think on Facebook, John Powell said something because he listed all of his deluxe editions. I'll see if I can go find it.
I wish they would finish out the James Bond movies. I know Sarabian doesn't have those, but
yeah, I know I'm gonna tease everybody watching, but I'm gonna talk to you guys off air about something interesting that was, I think, mistakenly sent to me. Dealing with James Bond.
Okay, well, that's the end of tonight's show.
Come back next week.
Yeah, I was. It was like, what is this, and why is this? It came with one of my promos, so one of my digital promos, and there's some art in there that I probably shouldn't have seen.
Oh.
Licensing. That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, there's rumors that Varese has certain titles in perpetuity. So that's why everybody's guessing these kind of 90s titles that they released in like 30-minute albums back then. And then will hopefully be released as expanded editions. So
Leviathan.
And Leviathan is the thing about a Leviathan is, I know how many Goldsmith fans would want that. I'm just wondering how many they'd be willing to produce.
I only need one.
But then again, I mean, if you look through, so for instance, Space Camp came out, and there was an interesting note in the liner notes, and that's it kind of gives you a behind the scenes look at how licensing works and how complicated it can get.
Did you already get your copy of Space Camp?
I got the digital version, yeah.
Okay.
And it's excellent. So, but yeah, because this is, I mean, it doesn't go into much detail on where they found the complete score because everybody thought it was lost. But over the years, let's see if I can find the reason why. You guys can talk amongst yourselves.
I'll just say hello to Anders, who's in the chat at the moment. I forgot to say hello earlier on.
Yes.
So something came up in your video earlier on, your stream with your 238 scores of the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And one of them, somebody mentioned a score, and you said, no, that's not in there. I got a Facebook thing from my sister just before we came on air, and it was a slice of apple pie cost $2 in Jamaica, and it's $2.50 in the Bahamas. Those are the pie rates of the Caribbean. I thought that was quite good.
Your sister has a better sense of humor than mine does. Oh, should Pirates of the Caribbean have been on my top 20 list?
Maybe if you, well, I was going to say maybe if you had a top 40, but you did have a top 40, really.
Yeah, let me see where I could maybe like squeeze it in at.
Do you like it? Do you like the Pirates of the Caribbean score?
I walked out of the movie theater. I saw it opening weekend, and I thought this had a really great score. This was just a fun movie. I bet it's going to make a lot of money, and it did. But I never bought the soundtrack. I bought the second one. And I'm like, I just don't like this as much. And I saw the movie, and I'm like, yeah, let's just stick to the first one and just cherish that and not worry about the rest. And that's kind of where I've been ever since then.
Because Alan Silvestri was originally scoring the first film, wasn't he?
That's right.
Did he actually record anything?
He wrote 1M1. That's it.
Right.
It was never recorded. 1M1's the first cue in the score. So he never. I can't find the licensing thing. It was licensed through ABC, so I don't know what that is and whether that's because I think Disney owns ABC, but Disney also owns Fox. The Space Camp album was found at Fox. Anyway, but yeah, Silvestri. There's an interview online where he talks about him writing like about a minute music, and they just weren't feeling it. That's not where they're going, especially when Jerry Bruckheimer's on something, you're not going to be able to get a traditional pirate score for anything. So, but everybody loves the Pirates of the Caribbean. So, but if I was going to pick one, the third one I think is my favorite.
That was Hans Zimmer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's a great score, actually. Really done. Well done.
I guess I could have like squeezed it in between like, I don't know, like 20 subsection C maybe.
Yeah, I think Gladiator, Inception, and Interstellar are probably the best things he's done. And then give it a little bit of time, I'd probably put Wonder Woman 1984 on that list. I wasn't too enamored with his Superman stuff. But I do like his theme for Wonder Woman. And you're right. I wonder how that Rupert Gregson Williams score would sound like without the Wonder Woman theme. So, yeah. Because I'm not a really big fan of that score either. Seems rather bland to me. But
there's a guy on eBay. I'm assuming it's a guy. I don't know, but he says he's got recording sessions from Wonder Woman on
probably
6 CDs. But he wants like maybe $200 or so, and I'm like,
don't pay for that.
I can't do that.
This is something that I talk about online, and just every time I see bootlegs and things of that sort, and people think that they're entitled to the music, but the amount of people that are producing it. And here's the thing: a score came out. Hasn't come out yet. It was going to come out, but since it was bootlegged or leaked out, it's now never going to be released. And that was James Horner's Romeo and Juliet. So Romeo and Juliet, for some reason, just leaked out the album presentation that this particular group was working on. And it got out, and it was like the group that were producing the CD, they said it was really difficult for us to even start working on this album because there's a whole bunch of people behind the scenes, and I don't even think the production company or whomever wanted to release it, but it looks like this James Horner group managed to get them to agree to do it, but then it leaked, and we're probably never going to see that album because now they're like, well, it's out there, so what's the point? How are we going to make money? How are we going to sell this if everybody has it? So, and that's what bootlegs and all these recording sessions and things like that do. People keep saying, oh, we're going to buy the album, but we're just listening it for. I've just find, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to listen to all that sort of stuff and have it, but in the end of the day, when you got people who are making money off of it, it's the people that are losing out are the composers, are the musicians. And unless it's a buyout, but still, these things are not cheap to produce. These record labels do not make a profit on these albums, with the exception of maybe I'm trying to think of what was the last one that La La Land released that was just an absolute huge hit. But Varese, I think, would stayed afloat because of Ghost back in 1990. They released the score, but everybody wanted Unchained Melody, and they released Unchained Melody on that album, and that was a huge hit. But that's rare, and so there's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to get these things out there. And I just find that bootleggers are just crapping all over these people who are trying their best and hardest and paying a lot of money to get this stuff out to us. So
how do you get the recording sessions or a unreleased score?
Yeah, it could be a I don't know how tight-lipped they are about it, but you can have somebody that's working within the industry. For instance, I got a pretty much complete Giacchino set of albums. I'll show you what he sent me. This is how they could get out in the wild, where Giacchino's like, don't send these out to anybody no matter what. So I'm like, okay, good. I'm not going to ruin my friendship with them. But when I asked him, I said, I would love Small Soldiers, the video game. This is Camden 2000. That's his symphony. It's never been released and it was only performed once. Warpath. I've got Semper Fi and Redemption of the Ghost and a whole bunch of other things on there. I'm not trying to show off. I'm just saying that this is the way that they could get out. You got a composer sending it to a friend or something like that, and then that guy, oh yeah, I got that score. You want to hear the whole thing from such and such? Here it is. I got it. And then that gets out, and then some jerk uploads it onto whatever download site that's out there, and now it's out there. So I don't know who does it. But I mean, it's possible that if you ever do see any of these, I mean, it's not my fault. I've been asked, but I'm like, no. Kino trusted me to hang on to those and play. It was just to play on my show, but it was also played just on my FM show. I really can't put them on the podcast because then they become downloadable. But anyway, but that's how it could happen. I mean, I'm just a fan with Kino's early catalog, complete. And anyway, I got like Spider-Man 3, right? And that came from the PR company, but it was never released. And so that's how that one can get out.
Like my Batman thing here, promo.
But with those are actually, now that particular stamp, that gold stamp, that's Warner Brothers. So the Warner Brothers used to do it to my albums all the time. I remember AI being just stamped with that. And then, do you have the cutout on the spine?
I think so.
Or do they gotta give you a new CD
case? No, it's smooth. Well, okay. I guess I got a new CD case, if nothing else.
But yeah, I mean, like mine are usually cutouts. I mean, let's see if I can show you AI. Yeah. But this one isn't a cutout. So AI came to me with the exact same gold sticker.
Yeah.
And that sucks. That's just, but again, can't complain. I didn't pay anything for that. But usually they were cutouts. I got tons of cutouts because of that. So,
is there anything extra on those promotional ones, or is it exact same?
No, it's the real album. Most of the time, what they're sending out are like it's sometimes you can tell like they have these promos, but they always print a little bit extra just in case these kind of teeth in the CD are broken, and they usually hear it, or if there's a crack in the CD case or a rip in the booklet or whatever. Those are usually sent out as the promos because they're never going to sell them. And but there's never, I mean, on the actual legitimate releases, there's never more music than what was there. But I'm trying to think of an example of something where
the FYC sometimes have more music.
Yes, those ones do. And let's see if I can find Christopher Young. Like Christopher Young, holy smokes, his promos. Like, I don't know, has Head Above Water been released? I mean, these were the ones that were produced by Entrada for Christopher Young. And that's what they kind of look like. Like Murder at 1600. This is one that has to be released at some point. This is fantastic. It has a cue called Oval Room Rumble. Well, Roomba. And that's a great score. But you can see produced by the composer right there. It says produced by the composer for promotional use only, not licensed for sale. Trying to think if there's anything that I have that's kind of more music than the actual release that came out.
Lincoln's got more.
And the thing about those FYCs, those more recent ones, because they stopped doing them, those are albums with the actual music as heard in the film. So you're going to hear crossfades and edits and things of that sort. They used to send out albums that were just like complete tracks, but then they wanted to, I guess the Academy's like, no, you've got to only send music that is heard in the film. Because that's how they want the Academy to vote on it.
I've got a Murder at 1600 on eBay. It's got a barcode on it.
Yeah, it has
31 cues, 75 minutes.
How many?
31 cues, 75 minutes.
Yeah. So someone's lifted the recording sessions. So that's a boot.
Okay.
Or an import, Daniel.
Import, yeah. Some of them look so good though. It's like, wow, they took some time in doing this.
Like, okay, here's one. This is Alias. Season 1.
TV show?
Yeah. So, oh shit, what's in here? Sorry. This is. Do I have the other one? This is Alias, 24 tracks, no titles, approximately first half of season 1. But all he sent me was just this disc. And then I made the cover. I made the cover myself. But yeah, that's way more music than the original release. I don't know where the other half of season 1 is.
Michael's asking about the Superman 3 CD set from La La Land. I bought it because it said John Williams on it, and it was new.
Highly recommend you get it. It is the best sounding, the best presentation. Jim Titus's artwork. So if you watched my my soundtrack redux video, I commented on how Jim Titus completely redid the Superman the movie logo in Illustrator by hand. It's amazing. So, but the sound quality, it sounds like it was recorded yesterday. And then, I mean, if you're a fan of 2 and 3, which I'm not really, but I highly recommend then picking up Quest for Peace, Superman 4 as well, which I think is the second best Superman ever written.
And it does have new John Williams material in it as well.
And it does, yeah, that's right.
Jim Wilson says it's worth every penny. You know.
Yeah,
and
Jim's right.
I just bought the blue box. It showed up the other day in the mailbox.
And the blue box is great. The booklet's amazing. The presentation is great. You can't go wrong. I mean, if you can't find La La Land Superman, the blue box is exceptional. So, but yeah, it's the sound quality, what they did. It's the definitive. It's what does Mike Mendocino say? It's future proofing. It's a future proof album. You can never release it any better than the way that they did it.
Until they do.
Yeah. Like that, the 7th version of the Blue Max.
In 5 years, we'll have a new Superman come out, and it will.
But here's what I'm hoping is that, and this is what sucks about like the limited edition CDs. I mean, I can't imagine a new fan who discovers film music, let's say 10 years from now, and then they see that all these great releases were out at one point, and they can't get them for a reasonable sum of money. And that's what sucks. I would hope that there would be a bigger volume of albums so that it just never goes out of print. But I don't know how that works with the licensing and the deals, but I just thought that by now the catalogs of CDs would be available for future fans without them breaking the bank.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that sucks. But that's what I mean. I think the Star Trek albums, I think those are just regular releases. So anytime they go out of stock, they're always back in stock a little bit later, but they're never out of print. And I think that was a deal that they worked out with Paramount, which is fabulous. And if they happen to, I mean, and that's what I don't understand about people complaining, like, 5 years from now, like, again, we have 7 different versions of the Blue Max, but that means that everybody gets to hear it. And if it happens to come out again in 5 years, well, you got a new soundtrack fan 5 years down the road that probably has never heard it before. And they're like, holy crap, there's the Blue Max. Great. I'm going to go buy that today. I just never understood the, what's the word for it? It's like, the older crowd, they just kind of like, they're like, no, this is mine and nobody else can have it.
Elitist, maybe?
Something like that. But that's kind of what I get the feeling about, where it's like, oh, geez, they're really, really releasing Star Wars again. Well, this isn't for you. Just don't buy it and go buy something else. Let somebody else enjoy it.
I don't know, if they re-released the original Star Wars again and they just said they did something new to it, I'd be like, well, okay,
True, and Star Wars is probably the a bad example, but I mean, Last Starfighter, for instance. I mean, there's so many people complaining. They're like, it's the same content, but the sound is different. So now they're like, oh, we're going to have to spend $30 again just for an upgrade in sound.
$30,
but you don't have to. Nobody's forcing you to do this. Although Last Starfighter sounds incredible, it's the best it's ever sounded, but the previous releases aren't bad either. La La Land Stargate.
Is it still available?
I don't think so.
I think I'm trying to think of what is like what would be the reason to upgrade. I'm not 100% sure whether the sound quality is significantly different.
It's now shipping. Yeah, it's still available. It's $30, and it's 25% off until what? Today or tomorrow, Eric?
Sales on, they said through May 17th, so that'll be tomorrow is your last chance to get it. Yeah, I mean, Stargate is 2 CDs, some interesting alternates. I mean, upgraded sound, but I'm not sure. I mean, I think Jeff Foster
playtime of 1 hour and 50 minutes. That's pretty good.
Like the deluxe edition through Varese was pretty solid. I mean, that's 1 hour and 13 minutes long.
For a while, that deluxe edition from Varese used to be on streaming and for download, but it's kind of disappeared now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe those digital rights moved on to somebody else.
Possibly.
Yeah. But I love Stargate, so but I have to listen back to it again to see if there's any significant different. Again, Jim Titus, if I'm not mistaken, worked on the artwork. And anything that he touches is rather lovely. Did he work on it, or was it Dan Goldwasser?
What are you, Ian? Did you order anything from La La Land with the coupon?
I didn't. I don't get paid till next week, so unfortunately, I missed the sale. So
yeah,
I'll just have to kind of dream a little.
Eric, what's on your short list
for
La La Land?
Well, what I'm getting?
Yeah.
Oh, all of the John Williams albums that I don't have physically. So
that can't be that many.
There's the Superman set, Schindler's List, Minority Report, and Always. Yeah, that's what's in my. I have everything else.
I wrote down and ordered Schindler's List. I was kind of like, I don't feel like I need this. I've got the original release, another anniversary release, a promo copy, and I think another one. But I was like, oh, I'll just go ahead and order it. You wore me down.
Yeah, so. There's a beautiful recorder solo version of the theme for Recorder. Just destroyed me when I first heard it. So there's some interesting alternates on disc 2. But it's really well done. It's a classy release.
Did you get Empire of the Sun?
I got Empire of the Sun, yeah.
Okay.
And that's a great release too. But yeah, I was hoping to grab the Harry Potter stuff, but I didn't get them. And Close Encounters, man, if it's still available, and if you, oh no, it's not. Oh my God, it's out of print. I was saying if anybody doesn't have it, you should get it. It's a great. There's stuff on there I had no idea John Williams was writing, like the
TV music.
The TV music,
yeah, incredible.
It's so great. It's so good.
You know, the scene in the Neary house where they're watching 10 Commandments on TV.
Yep.
He wrote the score for that very short segment of the 10 Commandments. And
it's massive.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it when composers do that. I think it was like Jerry Goldsmith wrote a whole bunch of stuff for like Total Recall for whatever was on the television. He wrote those themes.
And the Burbs.
And the Burbs, yeah. So yeah, that's but I highly recommend, like, I would go through that whole collection of La La Land record stuff. The deal is quite significant. I mean, this isn't just like a 15% thing. 25%.
25%. 25 is huge.
25 is huge. So, and they're like, oh, so things that are really limited. There's less than 20 of Link and Into the West. There's less of 40 of Love Happens, Altered States, which is brilliant. X-Files Fight the Future, and Justice League, the animated series. Less than 75 remaining on Wings, The Conjuring, The Unknown Known, Eye for Eye, Airplane 2, and Batman the Killing Joke. And there were 3 out-of-print CDs, but they only list 2 here. Heroes and Used Cars that are only $10 each.
I bought Red for $5 minus 25%.
Red?
Or Red 2, maybe it was Red 2.
I think it's Red 2, yeah.
Alan Silvestri.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. I highly recommend. And Hitman Agent 47 is $4.
Wow.
It would probably cost me 3 times that much to get it shipped here.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think they worked out the shipping here. Hold on. They keep asking it every time I close things down.
Did you say you didn't get far and away, Ian?
No, but it's still I believe it's still for sale. So
it is.
So I'll get that in the next couple of months.
Yeah, $28 shipping's not bad.
For how many?
5.
Okay.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. Oh, Altered States is sold out? No.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Biggest. I can't see your last name. I'm sorry you don't like the show, but we're all entitled to our opinions.
You want to get rid of him.
But for language, I'm going to block you. So have a good day.
Yeah. See you later.
Okay.
So Altered States is out of print. I apologize. Oh no.
Altered States, is that David Shire?
No.
Airplane 2
John
is sold out
Corleone.
now too, as well.
Why am I thinking David Shire for Altered States? I don't know. Just ignore me.
But Altered States, let me look at the track listing here. I think it is exactly the same as the original release. So, I think so. But he only wrote 4 scores. 1 was rejected, and he's won an Academy Award.
David Shire?
John Corleone.
Oh.
So he won. I think all of his scores that he wrote that wasn't rejected were 2 of them were Academy Award nominations. Altered States. Then he did Revolution, and then he won for Red Violin, and then he did Edge of Darkness, which was then eventually released through Perseverance Records as a different title, but that's his complete score. But then he vowed that after that experience, he was never going to write another film score ever again.
X-Files Fight the Future sold out.
Oh, man. I'm just disappointing people left, right, and center here.
No, you're saving people money, Eric.
The Monster Squad limited edition's available. What else is available?
I always think I'm going to order those X-Files box sets whenever they have a sale, but I don't. It's looking at 4 volumes. What are they? $50 a piece?
I don't know. I've never listened to them. Well, I only have volume 1 and 2.
That's the thing with the X-Files. I think the music works great in the show, but I don't think I would want to listen to it away from it.
Yeah, I get that feeling a lot with like Star Trek TV music as well.
Yeah.
Some of it's with the exception of Best of Both Worlds by Ron Jones. I think it's equal to any of the feature film scores that were composed. That's a fantastic score. And it's too bad that Star Trek didn't continue to have music of that high quality throughout the series. It just became musical wallpaper because that's what the producers wanted. So I can't get through like Deep Space Nine or like any of the other Trek scores that came. I think it was after season 4. They just they wanted musical wallpaper, no themes, no melodies, nothing, just atmosphere, and it's too bad.
Have you seen the chat between Ron Jones, Jay Chataway, and who's the other composer on Star Trek?
Dennis McCarthy.
Dennis McCarthy. No. It's on one of the remastered Blu-rays of either The Next Generation or Enterprise. But there's a kind of an hour and 20-minute chat. It's just these 3 guys in the studio talking about their time on Star Trek and composing the scores. And they go over that. You know, that they were writing really brassy things, and the producers were coming back and said, no brass, no this, no that. And they were like, well, you know, you've asked us to write a score, like, you know, why are you saying we can't do this? And it just got really frustrating after a while.
Yeah, because I mean, Ron Jones, anytime he came in, he was writing new themes. Like, he wasn't carrying over themes from his previous scores. He was writing new character themes or a new theme for that episode that you would never hear ever again. Yeah, it's quite disappointing. But I mean, I think Nami Melamad, who has been working on some Trek music, is doing some pretty good stuff. I think she was on Star Trek Prodigy, and she's writing the new scores for Strange New Worlds. I wasn't too enamored with that second episode score. The first one was okay. I mean, there's some action-packed stuff that you're just expecting a composer of. Now, if you don't know who Nami Melamad is, she's worked along Michael Giacchino recently. She scored American Pickle. She wrote the score based on themes by Michael Giacchino for the new Medal of Honor game that came out a few years ago. Extraordinary composer. I mean, really, really, really gifted. And I'm glad that she's getting chances to write music, but I just find that some of the stuff that she's writing for this Strange New Worlds is a bit flat or undermixed. But I mean, there's some genuine chances for some big orchestral stuff for the second episode, and it was just pretty bland. So yeah. And then they had to get Jeff Russo to write the theme for the series. Like, I don't understand why nobody trusts Melamad to write a theme. Like, write your own theme for this series. I'm not particularly impressed with Russo's scores for Star Trek anyway. They're
a bit bland, aren't they?
They're just kind of cookie cutter. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't mind what he did with the Picard flute theme that was composed for Next Generation that he used in Picard, but the rest of it was just it's really bland. And I hate the Discovery theme. Can't stand it. I compared it to a doorbell. The ding dong. That's what it sounds like. It's really obnoxious.
Michael's suggesting the Lower Decks score.
Lower Decks, surprisingly, is something I haven't gotten into yet, and I want to. And I'm probably going to have to search for those scores. I don't have them either. I think they're on Spotify. So I really want to see that. I've heard people say it's the best Trek that's come out since what the hell was the last one before Discovery? Enterprise. So yeah.
Anyway, it's Star Trek: The Next Generation, season 5. I don't know if you can see that. In conversation, the music of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Let's see if it's on YouTube.
Probably is.
No, I don't see it. That's too bad. That sounds fascinating.
It is.
And it's like no holds barred conversation. Like they're not holding back.
No, they're not holding back. There's nothing to hold them back. It's it's years after their involvement on the show. So
yeah,
I mean it's all very cordial, but they're not holding back.
No, it's good.
And it's just really interesting to hear the 3 of them talking about their days on Star Trek.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. I hope I can find it somewhere. Why wouldn't a producer want themes? I don't know. I don't know why people are afraid of melody. It doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's overly manipulative and these people don't want that. But I don't understand. Was it Rick Berman? He's like I don't want melodies. I don't want to hear them. Like, I don't even want anything. I mean, I'm surprised that I think it was like Dennis McCarthy or whomever was scoring Deep Space Nine were able to express the Klingon music using kind of that Jerry Goldsmith blueprint, but still just nothing memorable. And I don't understand that. I never understood, like, well, no melodies. We just went for atmosphere. And it's like, I don't know what they're scared of. I'm not sure.
That's probably why I don't have any Star Trek TV show soundtracks.
Yeah, they're like I said, I highly recommend Best of Both Worlds.
I've got that on tape. Yeah.
So it was released by G&P Crescendo Records. Mm-hmm. It was remastered, and you get the whole complete score. And it's fantastic. And there's some other there. I mean, I'm not saying that all sucked. There are some other episodes that were pretty memorable. But for the most part, yeah, just kind of, I mean, for a series that got live players and a live orchestra every week, I think it's just a waste of time and talent.
I remember watching Star Trek when it first came to British TV. It must have been kind of 88, something like that. And just been really impressed that there was an orchestral score to a TV show. But as you say, apart from the theme tune, which was Jerry's theme tune from the motion picture, I couldn't really tell you what the scores were like afterwards. But I just remember being impressed with the sound of it. Because British TV at the time didn't have anything like that. It was all kind of three blokes with a guitar and a recorder in a back room somewhere doing something. There was no scale to TV music in those days.
Right, and that's not cheap. They're recording in LA. It's not cheap to do. I mean, but the original Trek has some extraordinary writing, real memorable writing too. Ron Jones Project and FSM. I don't think Best of Both Worlds is on that, but that is a fantastic set as well. Everything that he wrote for Trek is on there, and I think there is the video game score. Starfleet Academy, is that on there? Yeah, it's kind of disappointing.
What about Doctor Who? Does that have any good music?
Oh, Doctor Who. I love the scores for Doctor Who. From about 2006 onwards, Murray Gold was the composer for Doctor Who. I think for the first season, it was all synthesized. But for the second season onwards, they had the Welsh BBC Orchestra performing all the scores. And there was some wonderful stuff in there. I've got about 8 or 9 CDs of the scores for the Doctor Who.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really, really good stuff.
That stuff is good. And then the Sherlock scores as well.
Yeah, David Arnold. And who did he compose them with?
I forgot the other guy's name.
Somebody Price.
Michael Price. Really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest. Oh my God. Have you heard? I gotta refresh it's a Bear McCreary score. Human Target. You ever heard of Human Target? It lasted a few seasons, and he wrote enormous scores for it. And I think at one point, one episode contained the most players ever for a television score up to that point. It was like 100 players. And his idea, I loved reading it. He was like, I'm a big fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and this is how I'm going to score it. Just big, thematic, huge, fun action writing within Bear McCreary style. But then after season 1, he was let go, and they hired this other guy just to write synth garbage for season 2, and then it was over. And I'm like, what? But it's got a sensational theme. I think there's this awesome cue for a motorcycle chase, which is just incredible. And it's a 2 CD set, but it's really, action adventure TV music in Bear McCreary's style, like fully symphonic. But he also has that barrage of taiko drums that he loves using. It just thumps and hammers home, Yeah, it really adds to the experience. But it really sucked that he wasn't brought back for season 2. I don't understand why. It's so weird.
I'm amazed by Bear McCreary, the amount of music that he's putting out for the TV shows and films that he's doing. And it never gets lazy. It never gets boring. It's always new and fresh. It's just fantastic
Yeah,
stuff.
he has, I mean, for everybody complaining about Hans Zimmer, Bear McCreary is exactly the same. He's got a monster team of composers working for him. So that's why he can do 50 scores a year. I don't know which ones he actually writes himself. I don't know what his process is. I don't know whether he's just writing a melody and handing it over to one of his assistants. But from what I've heard, that's how McCreary does it. But it's there's a lot of sensational music that comes out of that McCreary house of film and TV and video game scoring. I mean, somebody just mentioned God of War. It's incredible. Or his Godzilla score, which is... That's massive, just massive. But he's fresh, but he respects the past. He was a mentor, Elmer Bernstein, under Elmer Bernstein. He knows what he's doing. So, but he doesn't get the same wrath that Zimmer does, which is interesting. But maybe Zimmer's just so big that he's an easy target.
Before we get too far from Elmer Bernstein, because you just mentioned his name there, I work in a ward on the Western General Hospital here in Edinburgh, and there are about 4 or 5 kind of side rooms which are just single rooms, and they've all got TVs with hospital radio, and you can access loads of other radio through the TV. And there's a classical channel in the UK called Classic FM.
Yep.
I don't know if it's just UK or wider than that. All right. Well, they're not snobby about film music. They do play a lot of film music on Classic FM, which I love, and they have film shows and other things on there. But I was walking past one of the rooms the other day, and I heard music coming out of it. Again, an elderly patient in there. And I thought, I recognise that music. And I went in, and they were listening to Classic FM, and it was Elmer Bernstein's Cape Fear score. So his Bernard Herrmann kind of adaptation.
Yeah.
And it was a whole. It went on for about 6 or maybe 10 minutes, 11 minutes. I don't know whether it was a suite re-recorded. I don't know. I don't know of any re-recordings of that score. But I went in. I was supposed to be working, but I went in there and just sat down next to this patient and just sat and listened to this music because they were interested in the music. They'd never heard it before. But I was just amazed that that was coming out. When I was at work. But I just wanted to mention that before we got too far away from.
Yeah, there is. I'm looking for Cape Fear suites now. They play a lot of City of Prague recordings on there. The City of Prague recording for the actual Herrmann suite is just under 6 minutes long.
Oh, it could have been that. It just seemed longer than any of the tracks from the soundtrack.
I'm trying to think of. I mean, the longest track on Bernstein's version, they could have played Max and the end. That would equal close to 11 minutes because Max is like 5.5 minutes and the end is 5.5 minutes. Maybe that's the same. Those are the same 2 cues. I don't know. But you're right. Everything else is just, just under 4 minutes. And some are really, really short. That's a fantastic recording. I think Sean Murphy recorded that one. That's one of his best recordings. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. For the life of me, I don't get being a composer with a crazy large team of people. Why do you get credit for music you didn't write? So that's a very, very long story. Well, maybe not. I'll try to condense it. From what I gather and from what I understand from the people that I've talked to in the industry, with the contract that are put out, like when you are hired for the music, your name is going to be the first thing that's going to be seen. You're essentially the brand. So Hans Zimmer is a brand. So you kind of know what type of score that you're going to get. But then I'm sure within that contract, there are probably other provisions where it's like you are going to write 100% of the score, or you are going to use your team or whatever. And I'm pretty sure that it's in fine detail. I don't like Hans Zimmer as a person myself, but I have to give him credit where credit is due, is that even though he is the big brand name and he gets his name at the front of most movies that he is writing, he does credit his additional composers. And on top of that, the most important part about it is that he's giving those composers credit on the cue sheets. The cue sheets are the most important part for a composer in order to get paid for the royalties and licensing and things of that sort. So as for ghostwriters, I don't know how that works and why that works. And I, from other composers that I've heard, they're like, we are just happy to get our foot in the door and to write a cue or two. And then hopefully one day they think of us again, and, you know, we can eventually go in there and get a legit credit. I don't know how that works, why it works that way, but Hans Zimmer has explained his creative process as being working with a band. So he's the band leader, brings the people in, and he's like, here are the things that I've monkeyed around with in the past week or so. And so now I need you and you and you and you to go out and flesh these cues out. And then they come back and they offer their ideas, and he might like, oh, I like that idea, and they'll insert that in the score or whatever. So they work as a team, and that's the way he likes to compose music. Would it be better if it said, you know, music composed by Team Zimmer? Maybe. But then I could remember that in order for awards consideration a long time ago, like you'd have to only have 2 credits as composers, or if you had a bigger team. And I think this all goes all the way back to The Color Purple, or maybe even The Last Emperor. There's so many composers, so many hands in that pie, that they couldn't give out like 17 trophies to the team. They might be thinking about that. I don't know. But Zimmer's process is very team oriented, with the exception of a few scores. But even those ones, sorry, my dog's having a nightmare.
Okay.
You hear what sounds like a gerbil? That's him. Sorry.
I have dogs too. It's okay.
He hasn't had a nightmare in a while. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, I don't mind his process. I'm okay with his process. I just don't like the way that, from what I've heard, the way he treats certain people. But, you know, would there be a John Powell or Harry Gregson Williams or a Rupert Gregson Williams or a Mark Mancina or a lot of those guys that came out of the Hans Zimmer School of Scoring? Would they be working in Hollywood today? And the same goes for Bear McCreary or even Marco Beltrami. I mean, look at the team that he worked with on the Fear Street trilogy. He brought in Marcus Trump, who's fantastic, and a couple of other composers, and I wish I could remember their names off the top of my head. I can't, but that's his team, including Buck. What's his face? Yeah, I wish it was Buck Rogers. He does a lot of his electronics and weird instrumentations and things of that. Buck Sanders. So yeah, I mean, and nowadays with the way that schedules are, it's next to impossible to be a single composer and have that kind of Ennio Morricone style of writing, or even John Williams, where you're pencil and paper and, you know, you can get a score out that is just one guy. But even John Williams has help, you know, his orchestrators. He's had people write for him. He's had people conduct for him. Maybe Bernard Herrmann might be the only one, or like some of the older Golden Age guys. But even Casablanca wasn't written completely by Max Steiner. You know, Alfred Newman, I think, was winning Academy Awards for scores that he didn't even write the music to, but the Academy Award went to him because he was the head of the department. I mean, Hugo Friedhofer should have way more credits than what he does, because he was ghostwriting for a whole bunch of people back then, but they were helping each other. Yeah, like, I can't remember who helped Max Steiner on, was it Casablanca or Gone with the Wind? I think it was Gone with the Wind. Anyway, it was one of them, but he couldn't get it done. They just couldn't, so they needed help. And that's what's happening nowadays. I mean, with the schedules, 4-6 weeks, maybe. I mean, John Williams is going to get longer, but I mean, then again, here's my question: is why I'll be right back. I gotta unlock the door for my daughter, but you guys go on. But I have a question. I do have okay. Here, I'll give it to you. You guys can talk amongst yourself. But why do these composers take so many projects? And is it because they have such a huge team that they have to make sure that they're paying the salaries, or like why does Bear McCreary need to work on 20 projects a year? That's and same thing with Zimmer. So that's my question.
Well, Hans Zimmer, for starters, he doesn't write the same way John Williams does. I don't think Hans Zimmer ever conducted anything, has he? To your knowledge, Ian, has Hans Zimmer ever conducted an orchestra?
Not that I know of.
He's always just like the keyboard guy, and then he starts bringing in other musicians to jam with, like Erik says.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the closest he gets to conducting is when he does his big shows, and he's got a small orchestra behind him. That's more kind of a band leader thing.
Yeah, he's not really conducting. He's just up front with his guitar or synthesizer or whatever.
Yeah.
But also the way you edit a movie nowadays, because I know like the Superman soundtrack from Zimmer, it's got the sketchbook disc in there, and then it's got the actual score, and the sketchbook just sounds like the score, and you kind of get the idea they just kind of took that and patched together to fit the movie, whereas John Williams is going to have sync points here, 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 and here for the upcoming scene. I don't really think many people quite do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like with John Williams, the way that he would write his scores, it's very interesting. And I would talk with David Casina, who writes music for my radio show. And you can even see it during the Empire Strikes Back documentary, that great behind the scenes documentary. But he's not, he sort of is, but he isn't a slave to the picture. He has to write out to certain timings. But what David has told me is that some of these younger composers are writing these scores frame to frame. Like they're trying to catch everything. Whereas Williams, if you see the pieces of paper, it's like, okay, well, I've got to make a hit here and I've got to make a hit here. But in between that, it's like spaceships flying and it's 12 seconds long. So he makes that hit, but then just writes music, right? Pure music. It's not matching anything. It's just getting from point A to point B, but it's musical instead of being a slave to the picture. Then he hits that point and then he moves on to something else. And there's always direction for that. But from what David has told me, that there's a lot of people just looking at it and they're composing to picture, which seems like the correct way of doing it. But they are, how do I explain it? It's sort of like the John Williams thing, right? They're not writing those in betweens, which seems almost like an animation terminology where, the head animators write, draw the first movement and then the last movement of a sequence, and then you got their in between animators that do all the animation in between it to complete that sequence. So, but I think I heard you guys talking about editing in digital technology. Computers are allowing editors and directors to edit a film right up to the last second. Like it's going to be distributed tomorrow. Well, I got up until 11:59, to edit this, and then I can send it out to the world. And that's also causing a big problem. They're not locking picture. Whereas back in the day, if you listen to scores like Empire, Raiders, Superman, so there are some edits, but they're not heavily edited. You can watch the helicopter sequence, and I'm pretty sure that's complete start to finish, right? But those sequences are locked. You're editing film. You know what I mean? That's a commitment. You
couldn't have reshot the helicopter sequence from Superman without a hell of a lot of work back in 77 or 78.
So you have less time now. Sequels have got to come out within 2 years and not 3. And you're always having changing timings to the picture, especially with big effects heavy films. But then on top of that, you're like, okay, well, how many previews are we going to see of this? And then, okay, we're taking out that sequence and smashing it together. And now you have to write a new cue. Well, if you are somebody who is proficient at writing on the computer, in your DAW or whatever, you can easily make that change. right? Snip that piece out, bloop, bloop, put it back together. But if you're a guy like John Williams, you now have to go back and, you're handwriting all of this stuff. Time is money. And so I'm thinking that's one of the reasons why that's why it's gone to computer technology. And it's kind of hampering some of the composers. They're just finding shortcuts just to get the job done at times. That's why you have the string ostinato, which is just garbage. I hear that and I can't stand it. I'm done. That score, no thanks. I don't want to hear it. It's lazy.
But just from an editing and filmmaking point of view, if you're, I'm saying this not being a musician or composer or filmmaker, but if you're writing music to 1 million sync points for a scene, if you then edit that scene and cuss around, it's going to be easier to edit the music as well if the music's cut up that way to specifically hit a point, rather than having a flowing line of music through it where you have to rewrite the whole score for that scene.
Yeah, maybe the simpler the better. It's easier to fix in the end. And temp scores are, the bane of a composer, but they've been around for a very, very, very long time. And but you're finding that some composers have to kind of stick with that temp, and their voice isn't heard. I mean, there's some composers that you just know their voice, and then all of a sudden they write something and you're like, wait, hold on a minute, that's not what they sound like. Well, why hire that composer to sound like somebody else? Don't you hire them to sound like themselves? And I find that's happening quite often. Roque Banos, for instance, an incredible symphonic composer, but then some of the stuff that he's been writing for Hollywood, with the exception of maybe Evil Dead, it just goes into that, remote control productions style, which is like, why did you hire Banos? Why didn't you just go hire somebody from, some third-rate composer out of remote control studios?
Yeah.
If you want that sound, I don't get it.
I felt the same way about James Horner's score for Amazing Spider-Man.
Very different.
There was some good stuff in there, but at the same time, it did sound like that Zimmer-esque kind of just general remote control sound. And I thought, well, why get somebody like James Horner if you're just going to say, right, just do it like everybody else?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, Zimmer did the second Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I didn't care for that at all.
Oh, really? I think it's exceptional.
I also didn't care for James Horner's Spider-Man. I'm like, are you just like recycling the Rocketeer for a good bit of the film?
Well, I mean, that's James Horner. That's his MO. But I love his theme. Absolutely love the Horner theme. But I also love the Zimmer theme. I think it's magnificent. But the thing about Zimmer, sometimes he overthinks a project. And I think what he did for Electro and Max, the duality between that character really comes out in the music. And you can hear it. He's performing providing organic orchestrations, instrumentation for the Max character. But then when he slips over to Electro, it's all the dubstep, electronic EDM music, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. And I had a hate on for that score before I heard it, because I heard about, they're going to apply dubstep, and I'm like, no, thanks. But it works. But then he also employs that voice, which a lot of people found rather laughable. But I'm like, that's Max's conscience. And it's choir music, but without the singing. He's just rapping along, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you could just hear his thoughts through the music. And I thought that to be one of the most fascinating things about that score. And I'm surprised I loved it as much as I did, but then you got that trumpet Aaron Copland sound for Spider-Man, and some people thought that it was out of place, but I thought, man, Zimmer's writing this traditional major mode heroic theme for Spider-Man when it could have just gone in a different direction. And I was shocked, much like I was shocked by the Wonder Woman score that he wrote for Wonder Woman 1984. Never expected to go down that route. So I was pleasantly surprised by Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I defend it with my life.
Well, I'm not going to fight you over it.
No, and I get why people don't like it. I understand that. I just found something special in it. And again, I'm not a big fan of, Hans Zimmer overthinking things and the way that he talks about his scores. I was like, well, I've done something different that nobody's ever done before, and there's no such thing as instruments in space. So I've taken celestial sounds and sounds recorded from the sun, and I've incorporated into this to create a sound that is
just blowing through the wind. And
give it up, man. I don't care. Just write the damn score.
Yeah, I mean, why can't people just think, well, I've got a film score to write. I just need to write good dramatic music to accompany the film and help the film along.
Yeah, and I it's much like Hildur Gudnadottir's score for Chernobyl. I don't care that you recorded all those sounds in some abandoned nuclear facility and incorporated in the score. Good for you. If you need that to fulfill your artistic vision, amazing. But man, do something amazing with that. And I personally thought it was grating. I didn't get through much of that score. It was really tough because I love that series. I thought that series was excellent. I just hated the music. Hated it. Can a good soundtrack be separated from a bad movie all the time? I'm wondering whether the question is, I mean, oh God, we've got so many examples. I mean, Jerry Goldsmith, look, Robert Folk's career. Most of the stuff he scored is written for some pure trash. Goldsmith. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Supergirl is definitely a great example.
Do you know what? I love King Solomon's Mines, and that's a god awful film.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we're soundtrack fans, so I think we have no issue separating the score from the picture. I mean, some scores don't hold up, and I don't listen to those, but there are others that do.
You know, no matter how bad the film is, I always like to see the film in conjunction with the score, just to see how the music actually fit in, you know, with its original intention.
Right. Well, I mean, Cutthroat Island, I think, is one of my, well, it is. I know it's one of my top 3 scores of all time. I really like the movie, but a lot of people hate it.
I love it.
But they love the music from it, and that for me is easy to separate from the film. But I mean, an interesting question would be, can a score help improve a film? I mean, or a bad film? And for me, I would say that it's in the high 90s that most scores, like 90 percentile, most scores work in their respective films. They might not be great, but they will be adequate. And rarely have I seen a film or a TV show, with a few exceptions, like Chernobyl's one. I know this is going to piss off a lot of people, but Under the Skin is another score that just ruined that movie for me. But how many films have you watched where the score just absolutely destroys a movie? Because I think it happens rarely.
Well, it didn't destroy it. It made it very distracting for me. And I quite enjoyed the film, but many people didn't. Was Tenet. I found the score for Tenet very grating. It was just, I can't describe it. It was just, that's all I have to say on that.
Your grating is a perfect word for that score. Yes. How about you, Daniel?
I think Black Panther might have been better if it had a better score.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, I just drop an A-bomb here? I'm like, yeah. I liked the Black Panther theme from Civil War. It wasn't in the Black Panther movie. I didn't really care for the Black Panther film score. I wish they had kept the first Black Panther theme and imported it and worked with that. Die Another Day was crap James Bond movie, but more importantly, the score, I don't know what the hell happened to that score. It's not good. I don't think David Arnold wrote that. That's what I tell myself. But
can I just quickly say that King Solomon's Mines is not my favorite movie. Neil,
it's not good. It's I'm wondering. I'm very curious. When Goldsmith signed up for that, he's like, "Great, here is my Indiana Jones film. And then he saw it and went, what the hell is this? Right? Can you imagine just thinking what it's going to be, and then you're delivered it and you're like, this is garbage. How do I save this? That must be the hardest thing to do as a composer. It must be.
Who is it directed by, though? It was a director he worked with before, earlier.
Yeah, not JJ, something Thompson.
Yeah, J. Lee Thompson.
Is it JJ Thompson?
J. Lee Thompson.
Oh, J. Lee Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, J. Lee Thompson. Wasn't he?
He did the Guns of Navarone.
Right.
So
think of the stuff that he did for.
And Goldsmith did a score for him previously. I can't remember what it was, but so maybe it was the kind of the director relationship rather than the film that Goldsmith went for.
Yeah, possibly. Trying to think of the things that the Chairman. That's Goldsmith. He did a bunch of Planet of the Apes movies. Cobo Blanco.
All right. Okay.
10 to Midnight. I mean, oh my God. King Solomon's Mines. He went to Firewalker, Death Wish 4, The Crackdown. I just don't understand the tone of King Solomon's Mines. I don't get it because it's so goofy. But is that
I've never seen the movie, but now I feel like I need to.
Is it a who's the production company that released?
Canon.
Oh yeah, it's Canon. So that's it. It's a Canon movie.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure they had no budget.
Yeah. But yeah, I that was another one of those films that I went to the cinema to see it. Just on the strength that Jerry Goldsmith, because I'd heard the score before. It's at the time where I'd bought the score before I'd seen the film, and the score just sounded awesome, and I thought the film has got to be awesome.
Yeah.
And you look at that old style artwork on the front of the album cover, and you think, oh, this looks even more awesome than the music sounds.
Yeah.
And then you see the film and you think it's not awesome.
Yeah.
So
I agree. All right, Sound Engraver. I want to talk about this. Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh, where'd it go?
There we go.
Mm-hmm. So my response to this is, again, I have no problem for an artist to go out and find new ways of expressing themselves. For instance, I thought Jerry Goldsmith's recorded basketballs for Hoosiers was a stroke of genius. He used it as a drum beat. I'm like, fine with that. But I don't like that score because Jerry Goldsmith went out of his way to record basketballs. And that's not the reason why I like it. It works as a great film score. You could easily have taken a drum machine and created the exact same sound. But I mean, artistically, yes, I can understand why a composer would do that. I just found, like Chernobyl especially, I understand what she was going for, but the thing is, like with all of those sounds, nothing really stood out as a material that she recorded. She just basically twisted it around and turned it into a drone score, where I'm pretty sure that any old drone samples would have worked just as equally. But I can understand her as an artist wanting to do that sort of stuff. I just didn't like it as a score. And I thought it took away from my experience. And the same thing with Tenet. I understand what Göransson was doing. And there's some interesting ideas behind that. I think there's even some mathematical stuff with, the way he played notes and then reversed them and reverse engineered these and things and whatever. And it was quite a creative undertaking. But again, working and functioning as a film score, I thought it was terrible. I didn't like the movie myself, but I just don't think it. I heard it and I'm like, yeah. There's a huge 10 to 11 minute cue that just, it seems like it's sustained at the same volume for the whole freaking thing, and it just doesn't vary. And that then becomes just a wall of sound and becomes incredibly grating and annoying as well. And I don't like that stuff where you're just. I love dynamic music, especially in a film score. So, and whenever a composer can fit in to a sequence where there's no dialogue or heavy sound effects, and they can really punch it up and then bring it back down because they really shouldn't be heard. They're only enhancing it underneath like a dialogue scene or whatever. Like, again, the asteroid field might be one of the best examples of a composer stepping out of the way and then pushing it to 11 and totally enhancing that sequence and then coming back and pushing it forward, but also at the same time hitting every emotional sync point in that cue. It's utterly remarkable. And on top of that, he presents a theme that is never heard again, where any composer working on any film would love to use that theme as their main theme for a film. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm not against the creativity of a composer, and I do appreciate anybody that goes out and tries to find a new sound, even within the classical world. I mean, Penderecki was doing stuff that I had never heard before, and I appreciate all that stuff, and I think that's great and new and amazing. But again, just because you've done something new doesn't mean it's good, and that's what I'm finding. A lot of film critics are really kind of tricked into liking certain scores because they heard a story and they're like, well, this has never been done before, so that must be amazing. But then if it's a John Williams-esque score, it's like, oh, well, that's just another orchestral score. And, well, we've heard that a million times, so obviously it didn't work. That's not how you review film scores, in my opinion.
Would Field of Dreams sound better if it had been recorded in a cornfield?
Or with corn, you pop some corn. And
yes,
yeah. Or with real ghosts. Shaking
the corn.
But just to cover my feelings on Tenet before we get off this, it may be because it's my own personal taste in music, but as I say, I'm not a musician or composer, so but I just found that when that music was going full bore in Tenet for whatever scene, there's a scene where they're stealing a piece of the device, and it's all the trucks surrounding another truck, and they go into it, and but the score was making me. It was taking me out of the film. It was robbing the excitement and the enjoyment of that scene, because I just found that the score for that wasn't working dramatically with the scene. It was like a separate thing. It was like somebody had bought a speaker into the cinema, placed it there, and was playing their own music while I was watching a film. And I think, can you stop that? I'm trying to watch this. Right. That's the way I felt about it.
Yeah.
So
sense. And this...
and it's overused in media when people say, in my opinion, but that's my opinion.
And yeah, I mean, everybody has their own opinion. I mean, look, Chernobyl went on to win the Emmy Award. She went on to win the Academy Award for Joker, which, again, with the Academy, I think she wins it because of one scene, not because of the whole score. And but then she goes on to do Battlefront. Was it 2042 or whatever? And it's even the video game. I've been watching reviews of video game players, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" She's crunching sand on snare drums, and she has musicians come in with crumpled up plastic, and she's recording all that for her score. And it's like, oh, it's the most amazing thing, the most breakthrough film score. You've never heard anything like it before. I'm like, great, but is it a good score? And for me, it isn't. But this example of Return of the King and Lighting the Beacons is, I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't agree with this.
that is my favorite cue from all three films. That is a stunner. And
honestly, I think the album version of it is the stronger cue and not the one that they used in the film. There's just, and I wish I can describe it musically, but there's a weird drop. It goes to a different note just before it starts going into that soaring music with the big theme, Gondor's theme, when they're lighting the beacons. But I mean, that's where a director trusts its composer. It's like, hey, Howard Shore, we're doing the lighting the beacon sequence, but it's about a minute long, and you get to score it the most heroic way possible. And that's what I love about a true collaboration where your director really trusts you. I mean, we can go back to Raiders of the Lost Ark, and could you imagine what John Williams is thinking when he sees the map room? It's like, okay, go do your thing. I know it's going to be amazing. Do your thing. And that scene, it's dead in the water. It's just a whole bunch of static shots. I mean, there's some great shots, but it's like, once you add that music in there, there's context because of the thematic material too. And you've already heard some of it, 30 minutes earlier. And now it's coming to fruition at this moment. And then, of course, explodes at the end. We can also talk about the Enterprise from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, or my favorite Star Trek cue of all time, Stealing the Enterprise from Star Trek 3. You watch that sequence, it's slow-moving spaceships and space dock. I mean, and every shot almost on the bridge is, a locked-off shot of a bunch of characters talking. But James Horner turns that into one of the greatest action set pieces in the entire history of Star Trek. It's remarkable, and I love those moments in film and film music.
Do you know a similar moment for me was from Star Trek 2? Not such a grandiose moment, but it's when I mentioned this on one of my little YouTube videos. It's when the Enterprise has been crippled by Khan in their first kind of confrontation, and it's Spock and Kirk trying to get the code for the Reliant, and the music slowly kind of just in the background, and then it's when they go, here it comes, and then the music starts building, and then Khan realizes what's going on, and their shields start going down. It's just that build up of music there that just gets the blood going in your system, and it's just like, yes,
I
fantastic.
Agree. That is one of my favorite cues. I mean, a lot of people go to the Battle in the Maturin Nebula or whatever, but that is telling you what the characters are thinking, because they have a one-up on Khan, even though they just got completely obliterated 2 minutes ago. You hear it in the music, even just the playful playing of the main melody, of that Kirk melody, right? You just kind of know that he's got something up his sleeves, and then of course when it explodes, you're just like, yes, and it just adds that extra dimension to a film, that if you're just kind of like playing through it and playing over top of it, or letting your score kind of float over the top, and you're not really saying anything, it's much more impactful the way Horner did it, or John Williams or Howard Shore. And the mutant track from Total Recall. Could you imagine? I mean, again, we've had a Total Recall remake. There's not one cue in that score that can, well, I mean, you're comparing Jerry Goldsmith to whomever the heck wrote I forgot who it was. Was it Harry Gregson Williams? Anyway, but I mean, the mutant cue, right? I mean, how many films are allowed to just kind of stop and do a montage like that? But then, it's like, here, Jerry, you're going to build this cue up until we finally see, the reveal. And it's just going to be this enormous piece with these French horns blaring on one side, the strings going crazy on the other. And that's where the goosebumps come. I mean, and for an action for an action movie, I mean, for an extremely violent action movie, to get all the feels. I mean, like, wow, that's good cinema.
It's funny you should mention that, because
sweet.
I got it on 4K last weekend.
Yes.
How is it?
I mean, it's a rough and ready film, but that's the best it has ever looked. It is just pin sharp. It's awesome. And there's a short documentary about the score on there as well.
Oh, super.
So.
Yeah, no, but I can understand where, Sound Engraver's coming from. And God, I just wish I could remember her name, and I keep forgetting, and I'm so sorry. My brain sucks. But I mean, I'm fascinated with what you were doing on your channel. I think that's great. So I just don't want it to seem like I'm totally against experimentation, and I'm not. What I talk about is, how the music is going to affect the film, and whether that film score is going above and beyond to tell us something that we might not know, or give us an emotion that we aren't feeling at that very moment. And so, I just want to make that clear. Because without experimentation, I mean, music does not move forward, and it needs to be there. So
Neil from Retro Reels put up a thing there about War of the Worlds, rescored with the theme tune to Benny Hill. That one there. That's an interesting thing. If you take a scene from a film and then music from another film, there's been times where I've had the TV on in the background, there's been a film on, and I've been listening to some score not from that film, and for some reason the music I'm listening to has synced up almost perfectly to the scene I'm watching in the film. And I think, well, yeah, this music actually works with that film. I just wonder, are there any kind of films where you thought that?
Yeah, no, continue. Sorry.
No, where you thought, well, you're watching a scene, you think, well, that piece of music from such and such a film would be even better in this scene than what they're using here.
I want, if people are interested in something that I did a long time ago, and they're actually still on YouTube, excuse me, I took the tumbler chase from Batman Begins. And
that's right. Yeah, I've seen that.
So
one,
if anybody wants to hear what maybe Elfman's score would sound like in it, I did an edit of that. I also took composer who I thought should have worked on it, Christopher Young. So I took a whole bunch of his scores, Spider-Man 3, Runaway Jury. Did I use what's that film with Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Entrapment?
I think it's just some music from that, and I inserted it in, and it actually works really well. One of my favorites, though, because I was editing these things a long time ago, but then I'm like, wait a minute, what about that finale track from Trevor Jones's Dark City? How would that work? That sort of has that kind of modern sound, right? That chugga 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 sound, right? It just keeps going, but it also has that wonderful dynamic action material that, those trumpets kind of like, lead from pianissimo all the way up to forte, and there's crashing cymbals and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, how's this going to work? And I literally played it straight, and it just worked phenomenally. Things were dipping out when they should be, like when the tumbler turns off its lights on the highway and the police can't see them. There's a portion like the score just dips back, and it's like, how did this work? And so so there's 3 videos. It's like Batman Begins, Tumbler Chase Redux, or whatever, or just look for my channel, Erik Woods, and I did Elfman, Christopher Young, and Trevor Jones, and it's that's a lot of fun. I even added some music once, and I think it's only on Vimeo. I took Chris Tilden's music from Mercenaries, and I threw it over top of the speeder bike chase of Return of the Jedi, because it's unscored. I'm like, what would that sound like with music? I also took some of the Secret Weapons Over Normandy music that Giacchino did, and I put it over top of over that. And the reason I did it was because that's when Giacchino was hired for Rogue One, and people were like, well, what is a Giacchino score going to sound like in Star Wars? And I thought, well, here's the only unscored action moment in the series, and see how it worked. It was okay. It didn't work that great. I mean, still, the best decision was to not score it. The sound effects in that sequence are enough. But yeah, those are always fun to, add a different piece of music and see if it works. And I think you'd be surprised if anybody watches that Batman Begins videos. They might be surprised at how well it works. Because I always felt really I felt that Zimmer's track was rather flat. Again, just kind of playing through the scene or just over top of it, not really complementing it. So I want something a little more dramatic.
I've got that Mercenaries theme going through my head now, and I'm just trying to think of different chase scenes where that would actually work, and it would work in a surprising number of those scenes.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do, for sure. What else are people saying? Scherzo for Motorcycle is another perfect example of music and visual. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one of those examples where it just works as a standalone piece of music as well, but complements, like there's a start, beginning, and end. But also works as a wonderful piece of music on its own. And then, John Williams is so good at doing that. His action set pieces.
I think that's my least favorite piece from Last Crusade.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's fascinating. Well, like that cue somewhat plays through the scene, still complementing it perfectly. But what he did with the circus train, is remarkable. I mean, that's probably one of his most complex action cues, where he's hitting every single like punch, kick, fall. It's fascinating to watch that. It's much like the ET chase scene with bikes. He had those dropping woodwinds every time the bikes were jumping over hills. It was I love that sort of stuff. I mean, that's where you can tell a composer's having a lot of fun. They add these little sprinkles of interesting orchestration to match the visuals. But Last Crusade's circus train chase is it's unreal. And then if you've ever seen him conduct it live, and I've seen some videos online, it's remarkable at how many. I mean, you can see sort of the streamers and punches that he has in front of him, where he's trying to match the timing. Incredibly complex stuff.
But it's still a great piece of music.
Still a great piece of music. Yeah.
Yeah,
it has flow,
which I think is the magic part of it. Some people would just score.
Yes.
Just be you can listen to it, but that is it's like a symphony.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying it's bad music. I'm just saying it's my least favorite from that film. Yeah. I think the boat chase is a better piece of music.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that too.
It doesn't seem to get a lot of love for some reason.
Sorry, say it again.
It doesn't seem to get as much love as the motorcycle.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it earlier. That's the cue that Eric Kunzel decided to record on their Fantastic Journey album. You know, it's not Scherzo for Motorcycle. It's not the end credits. It was the Escape from Venice. It sounded amazing. It's so good. So good. Yeah.
I'm still waiting on the complete tank scene to come out.
Yeah. I'm wondering what's missing, really. I mean, you can smash them together and they'll work, I think.
I can't find a good version of them smashed together on YouTube.
Because like when that cue, on the tank cue ends, that's where you have to have the first hit of the Belly of the Steel Beast. But then Belly of the Steel Beast is still edited.
Yeah.
And you can't find a complete version of that. So, but see, that set doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? They give you On the Tank, which has unused music, like completely unused music. That Indiana Jones fanfare is not in the movie. And then that whole previous unreleased track, but then you give us Belly of the Steel Beast and it's not complete.
Well,
that entire set makes me do this.
You say that set doesn't make sense. A lot of John Williams soundtrack albums don't make sense to me,
right?
Because they're all over the place. I remember being, kind of a teenager and getting a new John Williams soundtrack and think, oh yeah, that's music from the film, and then because he's edited in such a way for a better listening experience. There's stuff all over the place. Different parts of the film edited together. The end of the film is at the beginning. It's just.
Yeah. Well, like, I don't remember if you remember the original soundtrack for The Phantom Menace, but out of the main title, it segues to the landing in Coruscant in the middle of the film.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And then you go see the movie and you're like, oh my God, where's this incredible opening sequence music? And you're like, it's nowhere to be found. And then on the original soundtrack, they play that sequence again. It's repeated. And I'm like, why would you do that? And it's like Jungle Chase from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It's chopped up in 3 parts, isn't it?
4 minutes long on the original soundtrack, but it's like a 9-minute beast in 3 parts. You're right. It's incredible. But you hear it the way it is, and you're like, besides the motorcycle chase through campus, that's the only other action track we're gonna get? Really?
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, some of Williams's albums are really well done. Like the short version of Stanley and Iris, I thought it's a lovely little album. I listened to it as a whole. I'm like, no, I'll go back to the original album. I mean, some of the stuff that he did with Phantom Menace, I mean, because the Ultimate Edition soundtrack sucks so bad, I will go back to the original soundtrack and listen to that. I'm like, okay, there's some really good stuff in here. But yeah, I don't mind it if, like, on an album, if they would put, let's say, the end credits at the beginning. It seems a little weird, but it introduces a listener who's not overly familiar with film music to the themes. And then, again, that's if a custom end credit suite was written. But could introduce you to the themes of the score, and then you can get into the score proper. I liked when they did the overture for Star Trek Generations, which was the end credit music, and they played it at the beginning. And I'm like, that was okay. It's a great opening, and it works as an album. But the way, Williams edits his albums. There's stuff. It's for listening. That's it. It's just a listening experience,
which is fine. But from a film music geek, they can be, the music is great, don't get me wrong, but they can be frustrating sometimes.
To agree. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Aliens, man, we finally got to hear Kamen's original music for that sequence, and it's like it does nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, and it's an unused piece from Aliens, so I'm all right with it being in Die Hard. And then there's a John Scott piece as well. That's at the end. So the original Cayman stuff, I thought it was going to be way more exciting than what it was, but then we hear it and you're like, it's just flat. So I don't know what the hell Cayman was thinking. But then again, that whole score is just chopped up, and there's certain sequences where I'm glad it is. Gruber falling from Nakatomi. That's a bit of action music taken from the middle of the score and placed at the end. And I mean, it's an iconic scene with iconic music now that you associated with that instead of the scene that came about 40 minutes earlier. So, but McTiernan is known for just chopping up scores. I mean, Predators all over the place. But yeah, I miss McTiernan actually. I liked a lot of his movies.
They used another piece of score at the end there. Was it John Scott?
Yeah,
Man on Fire.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It is.
It's a lovely piece, and they paid for it. So
yeah, but those two tracks don't kind of stand out and say, "Oh, this is not part of this film." It feels as if they belong there.
That's a good point. I think they do belong. Yeah, you're not wrong. The cue from Aliens with Last Minute Edition. So,
they kept recutting the film, and they needed the last cue.
Yeah, so the legend behind that is that he just like, all right, I'm going to write that overnight, which I'm thinking for the amount of work that Horner was doing on that score, and I think it was about 4 to 6 weeks, but he didn't have a complete film to write to. Nothing was locked off. Pretty darn sure that he was working on portions of the score here and there, and even that end bit. I'm sure he had something, but again, the edit was constantly changing. To get the final cue done, finally, based on probably the ideas that he had, he did that overnight, and then they recorded it. So, but that's Bishop's Countdown, which was then reused minutes later when the alien is shot out of the cargo hold, which I hated. And on top of that, on the DVD, they don't even mention Bishop's Countdown in its actual spot. They're like, "Oh, Horner wrote this cue at the last second, and here's what it sounds like," and it's over top of the sequence that they actually replaced, which was the hyperspace or the resolution in hyperspace cue that was used in Die Hard. That was supposed to be there, but they just, this Bishop's Countdown cue is so good, we're going to use it twice. And so on the DVD, they use that as the example and not where it actually belongs, which is just so weird. But the resolution cue that Horner wrote is excellent, and I wish it was in it. Still, it works so well. I think it works better than Bishop's Countdown. I mean, Bishop's Countdown, where it belongs, was legendary. But that again, that whole score is just all messed up. Like on the DVD, the quadrilogy or whatever it's called, you can hear the isolated score as composed, so you can hear Horner's piece with the visuals.
James Horner said there was problems with the recording studio. It hadn't been updated in forever. He was trying to patch in synthesizers and he couldn't do it, and all kinds of shenanigans.
Yeah, it was a whole mess. I'm sure there's a larger story behind it, but I mean, he's much like composers back there. They need a film to write to. They need something locked off. And back then, again, you're not using computers to write these things, and it's all handwritten, and if you go make a change, it takes forever. So I can understand Horner's frustrations for sure.
Now, okay, like JFK, supposedly John Williams just wrote some suites and just handed them off to Oliver Stone.
That's right.
And I love JFK. If they ever release the music from JFK as it's in the film from start to finish, I will die from an aneurysm, I think. I wouldn't touch that at all. And I keep wanting that. Maybe someday they'll release it for me. But John Williamson had a picture lock for that.
Oh no, he didn't. It
turned out good.
Yeah, he wrote it to the script because he was busy doing, I think it was Hook, and Oliver Stone needed 6 or 7 pieces that he could then edit to and then insert the score into it. Now, I mean, and I think we might have talked about this earlier. Like there have been a few scores that Mika Levy's score to Jackie is an example where she essentially ignored the script, the story, everything, and wrote cues just based on her idea of the real Jackie Kennedy, and then handed them over to the director, and then the director put him in the film. And I find that film score to be wildly distracting. It doesn't really work. But that's the point where she also said that, the film is a distraction. I don't like film music. She just wants to write music and then hand it over and say, there you go. And I don't think that's the right way to do it. I mean, without a collaboration and knowing what your director wants, or actually without knowing the story and the beats of the story to make your music as dramatically impactful as possible. Like a composer can look at a cut and then go, all right, well, I'm going to start here and have a sprinkle of this theme. And then it's going to work its way through 90 minutes of this movie, where then at this point, the most dramatic moment in this film, it finally comes to fruition. And that can only be done by watching the film. Whereas John Williams, at least he collaborated with his director. At least he understood what needed to be done. At least he had an idea. It's like, you got to write music for this scene. You got to write music for this scene. You got to write music for this scene. They got to be like 5-6 minute suites. So then I can just tear them apart or put them in wherever I need to. And away you go. And John Williams, again, basing it on the story that Oliver Stone was telling. And I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm okay with composers writing music beforehand. If they get an idea, great, good. More time for them to write music, fantastic. I just don't like the ones like Mika Levy, whose idea is like, the film is distracting. No thanks. I'm just gonna write my own stuff. I'm like, well, why are you writing for film then?
No sense whatsoever.
Yeah. And she said it at an event in LA. And John, if you read John Broxton's review of Jackie, you can I think he quotes her as to what she actually says, and it's just mind-numbing. It's like, why are you writing for film then? Well, I don't understand the process. If it bugs you so much, then go off and do something else. So, but anyway, but look, people loved Under the Skin, people love Jackie, people love her other scores. I don't find them particularly great, but I mean, I guess if it works, it works.
Yeah, like JFK, there's maybe 40 minutes of music on the soundtrack that John Williams wrote.
I'm just curious if there was additional music that he came back and kind of massaged a few cues here and there, or wrote some transitional material. That's what I'm interested in. I also want to hear the whole story. I've read Oliver Stone's, I read some articles on what he wanted, and he says, yeah, Williams wrote me some music and I used them to edit the film too. But I'd like to know whether Williams went back and wrote some additional stuff.
The cue list on the John Williams fan network, it's a lot longer than 40 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, have you seen the film, Daniel?
Yeah, JFK? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know the sequence with Donald Sutherland as X? And he's telling about, the industrial complex and all that kind of stuff. That's a really, really long sequence. And the track Arlington is kind of split up into bits. That's all over that, and then it'll stop. Then there'll be kind of suspense music. Then Arlington will come back in again, and so
that'd be a fascinating story to finally get the truth. Whether Oliver Stone or John Williams remembers it, but I think there's enough information out there to kind of put a story together and make it make sense. But it's fascinating because I've seen other arguments where it's like, oh, well, composers shouldn't be writing, like Zimmer, for instance. Zimmer writes a ton of music. I think we discussed it earlier. Writes a ton of music before he sees the movie, but he gets an idea of what is needed from his director. For instance, the father-daughter theme from Interstellar, that essentially is what got Christopher Nolan to actually make the movie. Because I think it was like he handed Zimmer like a piece of paper with a story on it, and then Zimmer went out and wrote that theme. And it's like, all right, great, I'm going to do the movie now. Fascinating.
Yeah, but that's fine because you're invested in the movie and you're writing music for the movie. You're not going, that's whatever. I don't care about that. I'm just going to write this stuff, and then you can have it and do what you want with it. Yeah.
And I mean, should we care? I mean, as film music fans, I think we do. But I mean, if it works, does it matter? Again, it's like the whole behind the scenes thing where, Zimmer's just like spewing off and going, well, I did this with that and that with this, and I wrote this, and isn't it amazing that I did unique stuff? And we're all like, well, who cares? Is the score any good? So when you have a score like Jackie, which obviously wasn't written to picture, she's ignoring the screenplay, ignoring any sort of dramatic arc, then she's just throwing a bunch of library cues together. It becomes a needle drop score where it's as if you gone and grab some production music and now you're throwing it into your film. But if it works, does it matter? That's the question.
Well, the thing is, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have all this information. We wouldn't know about all this behind the scenes stuff. So if it worked, it worked. We discuss it amongst ourselves, but we just wouldn't know. But, now we hear all these stories and we think, well, sometimes you think, well, do I really want to know about this? Do I want? And then you think, yeah, I do want to know about this. I want to know how it's done.
Yeah. I
But,
think that
it's a bit dispiriting when you hear, stories of, I've just written this, whatever, do it.
right. Yeah, I agree. But it's only this small little group of us that care about that sort of stuff. But I'm glad those stories are being told. That's the thing. And yeah, it needs to get out there, I think. I don't know.
It was interesting watching that documentary that you put a link to. Was it yesterday or the day before? The soundtrack collectors thing. It's an odd half hour. It's I don't know whether I liked half the people in that or it was an interesting watch.
It seems rather relevant today still. Like when I put it up there, I made sure to mention that like the LP collectible or collector mentality is still around. And it wasn't just the LPs, it was CDs as well, because back then as limited edition CDs were just starting to come out and people were hoarding them and asking for ridiculous money for them. But the interesting quote
that hasn't changed at all.
Yeah. Well, the interesting quote was like, are you buying it for the music or are you buying it for the collectability? And that old guy, soundtrack fan, he was like, well, some of it, I just buy it because it's a collector's item. He's not listening to it. Whereas I'm in a totally different boat. It's all about the music. I love the art. I love the effort that's being put into it. But at the end of the day, if the music isn't good, then why? I don't care whether the art is fantastic or whether I got a splatter disc or whether it's a 500 limited edition CD. If it sucks, then what's the point of having it? And I have no interest in reselling. That's the thing. I don't go, oh, well, I got this version and it's like $1,000. I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat that I own something that is collectible and expensive and whatever. But again, it's what is engraved or written into that silver disc or engraved into an LP that's important to me as a soundtrack collector and a music collector. So it's disheartening to hear that we're still in that collectible mentality, especially with soundtrack music and especially with the LPs, because they're released in small quantities. And that bugs the hell out of me because people who want it for the music aren't getting it. And I hate that. It's just one of my pet peeves. So thank goodness we have labels like La La Land and Entrada and all of them that are releasing 3,000 copies of albums, because that's what the demographic is. And we all get a chance to hear the music and not just the collectible side of it, which is where LPs are at, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same as you, Eric. The music that I buy and collect as a collector, if you want to call me that, is music that I personally want to listen to. It's not. I'm not buying it because, like you say, because it's a limited edition of 500, and tomorrow it's going to be worth $1,000 or whatever. I want it for the music. That's all. And I'm happy to get these 3-disc versions that have got all the music on it. If I love the music, I'll listen to it. That's all I want it for. And it's not for me to sell down the line when I get another expanded edition of that same score. It's just for me to listen to. It's all about the music.
And I'm not here to put down anybody that does collect them. It's great. If that's what you like from it, then fantastic. But The other thing that irks me is sometimes these scores are only released physically on LP and in such small batches, whereas the people who don't want to listen to it on LP only have a download option, and I don't like that at all. But I mean, I have my own beefs about the sound quality of records. So, I mean, personally, I need it digitally, or I need it like on something that isn't going to create surface noise and cracks and pops and things of that sort, or it's going to get destroyed every time I play it. So
something you can shave in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's my beef about that. I mean, I have no problem with LP collectors. I just like the way that the industry is going about it at all. And
I don't either. I hate record store day.
There definitely is more than 500 people out there that are listening to this stuff, especially with the LP boom. So why can't they
500 copies of this? That's it.
Well, then again, these are small companies. So, but I'm wondering what the licensing deals are for them, and whether they've changed, because I remember it was a certain amount that you had to print, and then there was extra money. Like if you got up to 3,000, went past 3,000, you'd have to spend more with the new deal that they had with the American Federation of Musicians. I mean, back in the 90s, it was by time. For every 15 minutes of music you released, you had to pay another round of fees. But I'm just wondering what the licensing agreements that these small LP producers have in place, and why it's 500. And if it's for reasons where it's like, well, we're going to hoard this, you get 500, it sells out, and then 4 months later we're going to put out another variant, and then the next time we're going to put out another variant, and then we're going to do another thing. That irks the hell out of me. I hate that sort of stuff where they're gouging fans. I also hate the fact that it goes out of print so fast, and then people, like you, Daniel, can't get it, and they have to pay ridiculous prices.
Yeah, like that Lost in Space record store day thing that I ordered and I paid for it, and then 2 weeks later they sent me an email, said, "You have to cancel your order." Bitch, it took you 2 weeks to cancel it.
Yeah.
I mean, after 2 weeks, you need to send me the LP.
But I'd be curious for you, Daniel, on Retro Reels, like if I'm not sure whether he's already answered my question. If I hated a score that was part of a trilogy, I still get it to have a complete set. Okay, but other than that, it's all about the music. Okay. But like if you got something, let's say as a blind buy, we were talking about that on our soundtrack, redo videos. Like even if it sucks, but you like the way the artwork is, are you going to get it anyway? And then maybe not listen to the score? Like, would you do that, Daniel? Like, would you get something like, oh man, the artwork's awesome, but I've listened to it once and I'm never going to listen to this again?
I don't listen to Logan's Run a lot, but I sure do love the artwork on that LP.
Okay.
But again, it was also Jerry Goldsmith, and I'm not intentionally getting everything Jerry Goldsmith, but anything new that comes out, I'm just getting it by default. So
right.
In theory, eventually I should probably have everything.
But I mean, where's your, you buy a lot. So where's your mindset? Are you more into the kind of collecting and having a collection, or are you both about the collecting and the music? Because I mean, I love having a collection. I mean, I love showing these things off, and I think it's great. This is what I always wanted ever since I started listening to soundtracks. I always wanted a massive library that I can listen to anything and everything that I like. But it was never about the artwork for me. So I'm just wondering, or never the collectability about it. So I'm just wondering where you stand.
At some point, I'm not sure where, but at some point, I made the decision to get everything that John Williams has done. Fair. Every soundtrack that's available, I've got. And I'm kind of teetering on, I'll get everything on LP. And I'm kind of teetering on, I'll get everything from Jerry Goldsmith. But I do buy some things. It's just like, now I just have a film score library. So I'll get things just cause.
Right.
What did I just put something in my cart at La La Land. What was it? Thunder Road. Film music of Jack Marshall.
Okay.
It's at La La Land. It's like $20, 25% off. I just read through the description. Apparently John Williams played piano on this piece. So I'm like, okay, I'll get it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm about to spend, $100 or so just to get albums that I don't have physically. I mean, I have them. I listen to them all the time, but I just, for some reason, I'm like, I just want to have these ones. And you're right. It's like it's completing your John Williams library. And that's where I'm at. It's like, I think I need to have those. Like, I just need to have them. I don't know why. It just seems like a waste of money. Like, I already have them. And again, I'm talking about, I love the music, but then there's something about those Williams releases where I'm like, I gotta be able to hold it, which is strange.
No, I'm with you on that one as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of albums that I had downloads of that either the actual physical albums were too expensive for me at the time, or they were unavailable at the time. So I thought, well, at least I got the downloads. At least I can listen to the music. But further down the line, an opportunity would arise where I could get a physical copy, and I thought, I want, as you say, you've got something to hold on to. Yeah. So, you've got that little booklet inside to read as well.
Yeah,
I just had to have that. So there is a little bit of the collector in me that will want stuff just for having stuff.
I think that's it. I'm not the type of person where it's like I have to have like this physical, intimate relationship with our music where it's like, oh, I've got to open it up and take it out of the thing and put it in, and that's the only way I can listen to music. Like, it's a better experience. That's not me. I enjoy music no matter where it comes from. So I don't need to be, sitting in my chair and opening up the gatefold or whatever and just like letting it soak in. And then, like, especially with LP collectors, it's still, I don't understand how you do it. It would piss me off that every 15 minutes I got to go over and flip that thing over and put the needle back on. Like, trying to listen to Lord of the Rings. How many times you got to flip over the record and get a new one?
I've made it through 2 LPs out of 5.
You still got like half to go. And that's the thing I'm talking about. I mean, that to me is interrupting the experience. It doesn't enhance, but that's just me. I don't feel like, oh, well, look, look, that thing is beautiful. I agree.
Look at that spine.
But man, I'm playing my digital release where I can just play start to finish without having to worry about it. So,
well, okay. So listen to the complete Lord of the Rings score. You're looking at like 3 hours of your life, anyways.
True.
But yeah, this is a chore to listen to everything. And the way I listen to an LP, I put it on and I hit the start button and it plays for 20, 30 minutes, whatever. And I go back and hit the start button again. And I'll do that for a couple of days and I'll flip it over and I'll start all over again.
Yeah.
But to sit down and listen to all 5 of these in one day, no, it's not happening.
On the CD stroke Blu-ray sets, you can put the Blu-ray audio disc in, and it's got the full score, all 3 for Return of the King, and it's 3 hours 50 minutes, I think. So you can listen to it all on one disc. You don't have to get up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You just have to have a bucket next to your chair. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, for me, in the nature of the way I present music in the podcast and things of that sort, like having it all digitally is the way that I need to go. But I'm a huge fan of playlists. And you just can't do that with an LP collection. And I always love just grabbing, like, for instance, I got like a smart playlist and I just say end titles or end credits, and it's like 500 tracks long, and I could just listen to the end credits from all the movies or scores that I have. But that's just me. I mean, that's the way. I mean, I think I even mentioned this on another episode. It's like when the iPod came out, it was a dream come true. It's like I get to hold my entire collection. Like when it eventually got up to like the hundreds of gigs, like I get to carry this with me. I don't need this, this Walkman and this giant bag of CDs carrying it with me.
And
I can just go, all right, this album, bam, done. It's in my ears. Sounds great. That was a dream come true for me. I couldn't believe that was actually happening. And I just love to have kind of everything, at a point and a click. Although, I mean, I do wish that, and I'm not sure whether I haven't bought any digital releases, but I don't know whether they have PDFs of the liner notes. I think I could almost go to all digital if I ever purchased anything, as long as it would have the liner notes or a PDF of the notes. And I know like Naxos and I think Chandos does that with their releases. But I also think that on streaming, every one of those albums should have liner notes. It should. It's part of the album. And that's disappointing not to be able to let's say listen to a symphony I've never listened to before, and I want to read about it, why it was, but now I have to go online and find out all the information, and I'd like to know about the recording and who did what and whatever, and liner notes are so important, and that's what I still love about getting something physical. But some companies will give you a PDF, but not a lot.
When I started collecting, well, I didn't start collecting music. I started buying music because I wanted to listen to it. It only turned into a collection over time as I bought more things. But now we get to this stage where Daniel did that 20 questions thing a few weeks ago, and I was showing scores off, and then I did one and you did one,
right?
And we've done Jerry Goldsmith and some other things since then. I'm just so glad I've got all these things to be able to physically hold something up in a video and show people, and right. I'm quite proud doing that. I like showing it off to other people. And there was somebody on Facebook today. Who was it? I wrote down his name. James Alexander Knox put up his Jerry Goldsmith collection on your soundtrack group on Facebook today.
Oh,
I don't know if you've seen it. It's about.
Was that the video?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's only 6 or 7 minutes long, but I thought, that's great.
That's fascinating.
I watched it. Yeah, and it's great to see stuff that I've got that he's got as well. So I love doing that. I love watching other people's collections as well.
Yeah, and I wish I could do more. I just don't have the time to do more videos, but I'd love to. But I love watching, everybody just kind of showing their collections and see what they have and what they think about the music too. That's what I love seeing that you have the album and it's like, oh man, what do you think of it? Like, what do you actually think of the presentation of it? I mean, that's probably why my video was like 50 minutes long. But then again, I'm a guy, obviously anybody watching this knows that I love to talk, but that's just kind of the radio and journalist in me, where it's just, I got to explain everything just so that where I'm coming from, or I just like telling people information about, that's what I do on my show. I find that I've listened to so many like film music radio programs where it's just, they're playing music. They have nothing to say about it. And it's so important, especially with film music, to have context. And I knew that right from the bat when I started this back in 1996. I'm like, the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the scene, and then I'm going to talk about the music and why you need to listen to this. This is the reason why I'm playing it. And that's a kind of a lost art. You don't get that very often, especially with commercial radio. It's just all about the music and nobody has anything interesting to say about it. But, podcasting is a little bit different because most of it's just talk. But I do love it, and it doesn't have to be film music. It could be classical music. It could be rock music. For instance, I was traveling to the United States at one point, and I went by Syracuse, New York, and there was this rock and roll show on, and this guy was telling me every bit of information about the song that he was going to play. And I'm like, that's fascinating. I did not know about that. Now I have a better appreciation for the song. I might not like it, but even if I love it, it's just, I love information. I love that sort of stuff. Give me a reason why I should pay attention to your show and why I should pay attention to the track that you're going to play. So I found that but you rarely get that. And if you do, it's just kind of the bare bones minimum. Like this film was directed by Steven Spielberg and stars Harrison Ford. Now here's Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's like, well, what are you playing? Are you playing a re-recording? Are you playing, what track are you playing? What does this track belong to? Like, I don't know. That's just me.
I think a lot of the time not a lot of the time, obviously, what you're talking about. You love the music that you play on your show. A lot of the time people are playing music on their shows that they don't really know what the music is or what it's about. They're probably not that big a fan of it. They've just got to fill time slots. I don't know. That probably is the case. You just get that impression sometimes that and here's a song from, and it's not a song. It's a Cure track, or it's an instrumental. It's it just drives me up the wall sometimes.
Yeah, and to be fair, my show lived on college radio for 10 years, and my station manager was an incredible station manager. He's like, you do whatever you want, don't swear on air, but you can do whatever you want. So when I had this 3-hour block, he didn't care. And that was great. And on top of that, being here in Canada, you have to follow CanCon rules, which is the Canadian content rules. There has to be a certain, there's like 4 check marks you have to check off in order for it to be Canadian content, and you have to play a certain amount of Canadian content every hour. Well, he's like, well, how many Canadian film scores are there out there? I'm like, well, I mean, there's some, but there aren't a lot that fall under Canadian content. And well, he's like, well, your show's going to be on the weekend, and what we'll do is we'll fill, and for some reason you can only do this on weekends. We'll fill the next show with Canadian content and the show before you with a ton of Canadian content. So then you don't have to worry about it. You just play whatever you want. And I'm like, that's awesome. Now, I would never have that experience on a commercial radio station. There's no way that I can get away with that.
That sucks for the people doing the show either sides.
Well, the thing is, there was the guy after me was a Christian rock radio show, and it was like all Canadian Christian rock, and that's what he wanted to play. And then the other one before me was a playlist show. He's just on the air playing whatever is in the library at the station. So they programmed the music for you. I mean, you still have a show, right? You still are, you're the DJ, it's your show, you do your own thing. But then when you have to play the music, you play the music that they set out for you. So mine was different. Like, we were specialty shows. And so thank goodness that with my program, I was able to, like I said, play whatever I want. And then the guy after me just so happened to be, Canadian content, Christian radio. And I'm like, thank goodness for that. And that lasted for 10 years. And that was, the Canadian, like, college radio is really where the real special stuff is. Like, if you were looking for specialty radio, that's it. But I find that I've listened to Mark Kermode's film music show on Scala Radio, and he's what I do like about his show. It's a very personal show. Everything is a personal experience for him, which I think I like. But he just plays so much that he rarely gets into the nitty gritty, and maybe you don't want that. I don't know about the classic FM programs, whether they are in depth or whatever, but I've heard other film music shows. Like, there's one that I recently found the guy on Twitter, and I listened to his show. He's like, here, we're going to do a tribute to Jerry Goldsmith. And now he's like, all right, so we're going to start from the beginning, or we're going to start from whatever. And here's, okay, maybe not, but here's Planet of the Apes and the track The Hunt. And he just plays it. He's like, that's Jerry Goldsmith and the track The Hunt. Now, here is Papillon and the main title by Jerry Goldsmith. And I'm like, that's your tribute to this composer? And that's all you have to say? Like, I don't understand it. You're on the radio. Say something.
Yeah, see, it's people like that when you're listening to it, you think, this guy doesn't really know anything about Jerry Goldsmith or his music, or he doesn't have the time to say anything, or doesn't.
Yeah,
there's no enthusiasm.
There's no effort. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying what I do is right. I'm not. I mean, there's times where I can go on a 12, 13-minute rant about something, and I'm like, are people still listening? But you know what I mean?
It sounds like the Batman show.
But I do find that, if I'm listening to, liner note or reading liner notes, and I find some interesting information that's like, well, maybe somebody listening doesn't know this info, and maybe it's fascinating. Maybe it's something they want to hear, or they're like, this is a replacement cue and it was written at the last second, and isn't it? But it's a great piece of music, right? And that's where I want to be. I want people to be involved and have the same amount of passion that I do while they're listening to the program, but also gaining an appreciation for this rather unappreciated art form. And that has been my goal from the beginning. Also, I want people to buy soundtracks. So I'm glad there's people like Michael and Daniel around here that, will listen to me and my recommendations.
Well, everyone remember the La La Land coupon expires tomorrow, 25%. Won't come around till this time next year. So jump on board that train.
Were you, Ian, were you around for that weird sale at Entrada where they sold a whole bunch of their stuff for like 1 cent or like $1? Were you there for that one?
No, I would remember that if that was the case.
Okay, it was insane. Like a whole bunch of their promos, whole bunch of like everything that Entrada did. Well, not most of the stuff, but it was like I think it was $1. It was crazy. I don't know why they did that, but it was
When was that?
Oh, years ago. I want to say like 15 years ago, maybe. But there was stuff like the Young Sherlock Holmes promo that they had out there. That was like a 500 copy thing. They're like, we got some extra copies. I'm like, oh my God, for $1. And I missed out on it. But I got a whole bunch of other stuff. It was just amazing. It really was. And yeah. So that's why I find this. I don't know whether La La Land does this regularly, but I mean, 25% is not bad. Yeah. Not bad at all.
They do like every May.
Sorry?
They do like every May.
Oh, do they? Do they 25%? Yeah. Oh, really?
I think last year it might have been 20. Okay. But it's always a decent discount. It's not like 10%. It's always a decent discount.
I think Screen Archives also does some crazy sales. Trying to see if they have anything new.
It's probably okay for you guys in the kind of North America side of things, but over here, if we're ordering direct from Entrada or La La Land, we're paying a huge amount for shipping. So
yeah,
but still, it I bought the Masada set from Entrada a few months ago, and it worked out cheaper buying it direct from Entrada than it would have done buying it from a seller over here.
Holy smokes!
Really?
Because the sellers over here will buy direct from Entrada, and then they put their own kind of fee on top. So it worked out slightly cheaper just buying it direct.
Yeah, but I mean the conversion rate for you guys, I think, is a little more equal than it is. Like I don't know how much our Canadian dollar is, but it's not very good compared to the American dollar. But at least I have American funds in my PayPal, so that's what I'm using to pay for it. So it didn't look too insane, but I couldn't imagine how much this would cost me Canadian. And I mean, I'm wondering what the the custom fees are going to be, if any. So,
well, that was what I was worried about with the Masada disc. But when it came, I looked at the box and it said content value $5. So
good.
So,
and sometimes, I mean, they can't do that legally, right? But sometimes they'll do it and see if they can get away with it. And yeah, I like that. When they do that, it's like bravo record label. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to order that 8 seconds LP from Quartet and the CD from Quartet, and they charged me for 2 separate shipping lines because they come in separate boxes. And I'm like, I'm paying more on shipping than I'm paying for the LP.
Oh man.
So I will pass on the LP unless Entrada gets a copy of it, because I'm not paying $40-something for the shipping. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. I mean, especially. Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, just Michael there picked up the 3-disc Superman today from the sale. So
we're doing our job.
Yeah, great stuff.
I just picked up 3 more things myself.
Yeah, and that's kind of all that I, with my radio show and podcast is that's what I want to do. And that's, I mean, even some of the weirder stuff, I'm like, hey, you guys should listen to this. And I mean, there's sometimes where I'm like, hey, I've done like a rare CD show, but then that's also a chance for you to listen to these things that you might not be able to get. So at least you can hear some of it. And I like that. But then, the biggest thing that's kind of messed me up is Spotify and YouTube. I mean, I used to get exclusives all the time, and that was really awesome. I mean, when I got the Phantom Menace exclusive,
is it complete?
Phantom Menace complete? No, yeah. But I was I don't know if you know the story, but back in '99. The Duel of the Fates radio single was being sent out to everybody. And that's what everybody was playing on the radio. Yeah. Even rock stations were playing Duel of the Fates. And so when I got my package, there was 2 CDs inside. So it was the Duel of Fates single, and it was the complete album. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So, I'm sitting there. I literally opened it up at the dinner table. Like my mother gave it to me, and it's like, here you go. And I'm like, I just got the real album. Does anybody else have this? So I called up my Sony Classical rep the next day, and I'm like, you guys, you sent me the complete album. What can I do with this? Can I play it on the radio? And they're like, yeah, we're giving you the world broadcast premiere of The Phantom Menace. And I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? Why me? And I was just like, well, no, don't worry about it. We love what you do, and enjoy the soundtrack and play how much you want on the show. So within I had 2 days to promote this thing, and so we're at the infancy of radio streaming, and so the only people that could hear this album for the very first time were anybody that was in the Hamilton, Ontario radius to hear the FM signal, or you can hear it in real audio at like a really crappy encoding, but you can only get like 100 concurrent listeners. But so I advertised this on Film Score Monthly, and then the Force.net picked it up, and it went absolutely crazy. So when I arrived at the radio station that Saturday, calls were coming in from everywhere around the world. Like, is this going to be on today? Like Philippines, Germany, all over the world are like, is this going to come on? I'm like, yeah, it's going to be on at 12 o'clock and blah, 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 blah. So I played it. And you can go to my website and look at the about section, and you can hear how enthusiastic I am about playing this, because I have a recording of it. But what I didn't know was happening was that the server hemorrhaged. 2,000 to 3,000 people tried to get on at the same time, and it just destroyed not only the server in the radio station, but it absolutely obliterated the college web server as well. So the college has no internet access for 3 days. Now, thank God it's May, and here about mid-April is exams, and then school's over. So nobody really is in the school at that time. But if it was during, like, I couldn't imagine it was like, October or November. But yeah, but the whole internet, the server went down completely, and it took them 3 days to bring it back up. And they were calling my station manager going, what the hell were you guys playing? And he said, well, we had the world broadcast premiere of the Star Wars album. And he's like, it looks like people want to listen to our station. So this is a good thing. I'm sorry it happened to your server, but there you go. And I'm like, holy smokes. I thought I did something wrong when I got the email, because I got this email and I'm reading through it, and he's like, congratulations. I'm so glad you did it. It ended up being my station manager's favorite radio story of all time, and he had been in radio forever, and he still tells people about it, and because he's never experienced anything like that before. But yeah, for some, I don't know the reason why I told you this, but yeah, that's kind of like the perks. Oh yeah, the perks. Nowadays everything's on YouTube first, everything's on Spotify first, so it's impossible to kind of grab that exclusive thing. So that's why then I go back and I'll play stuff that maybe nobody has or hasn't heard or whatever, and that's how I try to get people in and listening to stuff and appreciating music. But anyway, so yeah, it's that's a fun story. But I don't know why does this Canadian boy at a college radio station get the world broadcast premiere of this album? And I played every single note on that album, and I didn't say anything about it. I'm just like, here's Star Wars, go. It was awesome. It was really, really awesome. Yeah.
Well, that's what I love about when I joined Scores and Soundtracks beginning of last year on Facebook. I was looking for something on, during lockdown, during the pandemic. Nobody I know likes film music. I was looking for people out there that had the same interests, and I found them there. And it's been absolutely brilliant. Some of the recommendations I've got from other people of music I've never even thought about listening to. Japanese game music, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. It's been absolutely eye-opening.
Yeah,
it's been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, communicating with film music fans, it's a lot of fun. You'll see us online, and sometimes where it's a cutthroat type of community, because you like Hans Zimmer, you're a piece of crap, or you like this, and it's like you're wrong for it. But then when you start talking to people, it becomes it becomes very, very different. Like even the people that you see online, you really don't agree with them whatsoever. You might have had a tiff with them before, but when you start talking to them face to face, it really makes a difference. Then you start, for some reason, appreciating their opinions a lot more because, I mean, obviously you're face to face. You're not going to call someone an asshole like right to their face, but then you realize it's a real person, right? Behind the keyboard. And so this sort of stuff is just so much fun. And then, yeah, interacting on Facebook can get quite ugly sometimes, but but there's a good bunch of people there that are making that a fun community to be a part of.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's hard to judge tone in just text messages.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it'll be a completely innocent message about something, but somebody will take it slightly off and it'll just go off in a different direction. And that's why it's good to do this kind of thing, where you can actually talk to each other and, understand a bit better.
Yeah. One of my biggest regrets was, and I don't know why I did this. I was really coming down hard on LPs people. And,
I didn't take it personally.
I know. And I don't know. I think I was more miffed at the whole industry than I was at the people playing LPs and showing them off and whatever. But I was really, like a few years ago, such a jerk, and I realized there's some good people that left the community because of what I was saying. But I think one of the biggest eye-opening experiences, and it's actually recently, it's not like my mind hasn't changed beforehand, but when I started getting into that soundtrack, redo thing, and then just seeing how everybody's displaying their LPs and they're happy and there's, they're music lovers and I mean, they're just like me. They love the same sort of stuff, but it just so happens to be on a different format. And it was just and that's the sort of thing that I hate. And yet I was doing it myself online. And that's just a real jerk move. So I've come to kind of appreciate more so in the past few years, like even everybody's taste in music. Like I really do hate those that really come down hard on, like, Hans Zimmer for being Hans Zimmer. And I'm always there defending him, even though, like I said, he's a total jerk as a person, but his music and his style, you might not like it, but the way you go about it, it's like, you could be better. Be more constructive in your criticism instead of just being a fanboy. And it's really kind of tough when you have a passion about it and all you do is like, this score is awesome or this score is a piece of crap. And yeah, so that's where this sort of stuff, I love interacting. I mean, your top 20 of all time, Daniel, doesn't match mine. And I mean, I couldn't believe how much Hans Zimmer was on your list. It's unbelievable.
I have more on mine than you had on yours.
Yeah, right. And so mine's going to be different. Ian's is going to be different. But then I've also come to appreciate more so the LP community, and I'm getting much more a better understanding about it. I mean, I still stand by my, the way it sounds, way it's produced and whatnot. It's just not my thing because I've done deep dives into it and I've talked to the people who create the music or create the LPs and how the process goes. It's not for me, but I do appreciate the people who collect that sort of stuff. And it's like, great, this is what you do. Fantastic. I'm happy for you. I just don't like seeing you guys get screwed by some of these record labels. But anyway, but yeah, this sort of stuff, this sort of interaction has been, and even my Patreon for my podcast has been eye-opening as well. Just so many different people. Like I do an all request show with my Patreon members, and I can't believe how much stuff comes out of it that's like all electronic or EDM music or like really atmospheric. It's not all like John Williams fans or James Horner fans or whatever. And that's been really interesting to really to understand, just everybody's tastes are completely different and to better appreciate those people, because we're all on the same team. That's the thing. You might not like what I like, and I might not like what you like, but we're all film music fans, and we're a very, very small group. We all got to stick together.
True.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're building community here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for this, starting from my point of view, from Facebook, I would have never have met Daniel, because Daniel invited me to one of his shows last year. And it just kind of spiraled from there. I opened up a YouTube channel, started doing little things, and I'm having a whale of a time.
Yeah.
The stuff that I put out might be a bit amateurish, and I just get excited about putting stuff out. I haven't felt that way in a long time, and it's great to feel like that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is absolutely brilliant. I think that's so great. Yeah, I mean, like you never produced a video before, right? Until this started happening.
I mean, these things I'm putting out, I'm just making it up as I go along. I'm learning as I go. I'm making mistakes, and it's fine. You know,
you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well done, Daniel. Well, way to bring the soundtrack community together.
That's my goal.
I'm gonna have to beat it. I'm sorry to be that guy, but
my phone's got 17%, so it's gonna die.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about Batman next week.
Yeah, the Batman's gonna be great.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thank you, David. He loves what we've created here.
That's awesome.
And Retro Reel says he can't wait for the next episode of Batman Show. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree. Retro Reels. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Neil.
Everyone, adopt, don't shop. Keep listening to great film music. And we're all split because my phone's about to die. We got a movie Wednesday night. I just don't know which one yet. Hopefully I'll find out within the next 5 minutes.
Are you doing Predator this week?
I don't know. You tell me.
I'm in. My schedule changed, and I don't.
Okay,
I only have
then we're doing Predator this week. Retro Reels. We're doing Predator this week. There's the announcement.
Awesome.
And thank you, Michael, for coming by. I hope to see you again. Always good to meet new people.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
Everyone, take care.
Guy. Yeah.